Let's try this again. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear
I
me?
can hear you.
Hey, we're on to a
All right.
winner.
Now we're good. First time's always practice. Practice, practice,
Yeah.
practice.
How you doing?
I am doing well. I'm really looking forward to the facts. Just the facts, ma'am.
I'm not.
No?
Nope. I've read the first fact, and I'm very disappointed.
Oh. It could
Did you
be.
not read it?
I've read it.
Yeah, it's worse than the last one, isn't it?
Like, it's so.
It's not even what he says it is. That's the best thing.
It's so. I just.
It's like, do you know what? I've been writing a book, so I keep on watching YouTube videos. Like, I'm writing a fantasy novel. I keep on watching YouTube videos, little pointers about writing and shit. And they keep on saying, the middle of the book is really where it's hard, it gets soggy. People don't really know what they're writing, what they want to talk about. And that's where I think this might very much be the case. Wow.
I don't even know what to say. To me, as an atheist, it's such a bad chapter.
Yes. I didn't think you could get worse than the personal experience chapter, but you certainly can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even forgot how to format his book in this one.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. You know what? I'm the worst. I had to sleep with my English teacher to get straight D's.
What, doubles?
Or double D's. I wish it was double D's. I just went for straight D's.
Must just be a British thing. We got to do both English and English lit. What did everybody think I was making a tit joke? Hey!
Hey! Yeah, English was not my strong suit.
See, English should have been my strong suit, but they never wanted to cover anything I gave a shit about.
So at some point I want to break in. I made a video. Let's see. I made this February 11th, 2024. So roughly 15, 16 months ago.
Yeah.
This video pretty much, I think, shoots the entire chapter to shit.
I mean, the second half of the chapter does that as well.
Yeah. It does. Like, there isn't... I guess what the Christian apologist does not understand is, as an atheist, we're a skeptic that there is such thing as a God. And if you tell us that there's a son of God... and he covers the Tacitus, which I have in my upcoming video, which I have slides that are prepped and ready to go that have a nice animation of the flames and everything in talking about Tacitus.
I've got some very interesting things to say about Tacitus as well.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to talking about Tacitus. I'm talking resurrection and Islam and resurrection-ish.
Well, we don't need to give him the whole scoop of what's going on.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
Islam.
So I'm very excited to read all the already debunked. What year was this written? Corfax written
in 2014.
2014. So 11 years later. And maybe in 2014 I would have been receptive to some of this information as facts. But roughly 3 years after this book would have come out, I had already gotten in tune to how none of these things are actually facts, and they're just sugar-coated. It's lipstick on a pig.
Well, I mean, this first one has the most barest of facts.
Well, that's the thing. It's historically attested to in another religion. How much more legitimacy can you get in that than that?
I mean, to be fair, it's not historically attested in another religion. They deny it together. They're going to deny.
Yeah. And another thing I like that he pointed out was, if the Islam account is true, that makes God the biggest deceiver of all time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
but speaking my language. Look, Braxton, you're right there. You almost got it.
Yeah, but they know that God's a deceiver, though. Half of these people think that God put dinosaur bones here to trick us.
So... Oh, that's true. But that was the DVL. The dinosaur bones were the fruits of the DVL.
Yes.
So
let's stop talking around it. I'll just
Stop talking.
No, I said let's stop talking around it. I'll just bring it up.
Yeah.
So,
Do you want me to send you the video? The video I was planning on playing, or do you want me to play it on my end? You can do it either way.
It just be like, unless it's bad to run on your computer, it's easier to run from your end.
Okay.
Because you also know where you want to play it, where you want to stop it, and such. So
yeah, that's fine. That's the thing; it can just continue on. It's amazing how much 4 minutes of video can make your life easier.
As a person who makes parody song videos that don't do very well, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're on the facts. So do people want to take a guess at what F is for?
F.
You know, on the crowd, do you want to take a guess at what the
fun?
Jesus is certainly about fun. That's why he's got multiple holes.
It's about F stands for futile. F stands for Funky Cole Medina.
Fat F is for fag, which I'm going to roll right now.
Oh,
was I using the British term? Oh,
yes.
I disappointed everyone. My old my old guest host. I say guest host. He was the co-host of like everything when I first started this. That was his nickname because he really likes how uncomfortable that makes everyone feel having to say that. And he's gay.
Wow.
He's gay, so he really liked doing it. He made it into an anagram for YouTube because it was the fat angry gay then.
Fat angry gay.
Yeah. But he just liked people making people feel uncomfortable, because over here people don't really use it for gays. They use it for cigs.
For a smoke.
Yeah, so when a gay guy's saying it, like, call me fag, they go,
was he actually fat? Was he actually angry? And he was actually gay?
Yes.
The acronym fits.
It does.
And he identified as a.
He certainly did.
Interesting.
What's this thing I could ever put him to if no one's ever seen him before? He's like what's his face? Matt Berry. He's like a less popular Matt Berry.
What was and was his channel? Did he have a channel name?
No, he was just on mine. He lived down the road from me. So he'd just come over and we'd film at mine.
All right. Well, good news is Mrs. Tux is on her way to the airport. Bad news is I don't have to stop at the normal stopping time. We can keep going and going. We can go for another 6 hours, because I caught about the first 30-ish minutes. I was working yesterday. 30-ish minutes of your stream yesterday, and then I caught about the last hour-ish. And I didn't go back and get entertained from the middle part. I fell asleep shortly after your stream ended last night.
A strange right-wing weirdo came in and started trying to convince me of God, conspiracy theories, and all sorts.
Well, I mean, isn't the Bible literally a God Shaken Tux marathon?
Yeah, we'll just finish.
That sounds like I'm going to be buried after having been like shaken baby syndrome.
What he was saying, he went from us talking, and I mean immediately, I said, those chariot wheels in the Red Sea are actual natural formations created by animals. And he went, how do you know that's science? So what about COVID then?
Wow. I'm sure there's a fallacy there. Just take your pick, which one.
Yeah, I just shouted at him.
It was... Yeah, I either fell asleep right at the end or fell asleep right after. I can't remember which.
I think you're just saying I'm boring. I get it.
No, it was bedtime. I don't know what time it was there in the...
bedtime. That's what time it was.
It was bedtime, whatever time it was. And then I drifted off. I fell asleep in my napping place, and then I went to bed. So... Uh, you
You
know,
would be pathetic.
this is what happens when you become old. You just can't really stay awake much past 9:15. It's like an
Well,
impossibility.
as an insomniac, I'll put that to the test the older I get.
All right. I fall asleep so easily.
I wish I could.
I had a best friend that was like, the way you sleep, you have nothing bothering your conscience, do you? I was like, nope. He's like, I can tell.
Right. So today's
Anybody who says I'm afraid of hell, nope. It's not there. In denying what's in my heart, nope. It's not there. So
I think, Nerdy, you need to be like a guard of a medieval town. That's like a skill that they can all do as far.
wow.
You know what I mean?
Uh,
Oh, sorry, he's on all fours. It's much easier.
yeah, I used to when I was hiking the Appalachian Trail and I was starting to bonk. I would just kind of sit on a ledge and just lean back on my backpack, and I would take a 15-minute nap, leaning up against my backpack, and then start hiking again. Just kind of reset things.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I think I have a similar thing like that. That's mainly why I'm an insomniac. I try to go to bed and then I fall asleep for 5 minutes, and my body goes, "That was all you needed, right?"
Yeah.
Yes, is you know, you can sleep and type at the same time. Anyone who's seen me type on anything will immediately think the same thing.
Yes, I'm very lucky to be living in an era in which spell check does things for you.
See, it doesn't on YouTube though. It
No,
doesn't in the chat.
only if I'm on my iPhone.
Well, considering I haven't had a mobile phone since 2011, no,
Wow.
I don't like them.
And I thought I was like really scoring some points in the old man zone for not having a Facebook since 2018.
No, I hate since phones started tracking you everything you do. I started going,
Yeah.
I don't need this in my pocket.
I just pick my nose more. Then there's less things for them to try to find.
I don't like the idea of it. It drives me wild.
Yeah.
I think that's good from living out in Maine and like you're in the middle of nowhere and no one's ever there, and now everything's looking over your shoulder all the time, and it's like, no, it's not cool.
Yeah, I just I feel like I understand data. I know that my data is being used, and hopefully someday that data is used for good. Could be used for nefarious, but yeah, we'll see. Time will
It'll
decide.
never be used for good. Never.
Never. Never. Well, this you know, the many things in my life are because data works. So, and that is my belief.
Right, let's get into this.
Okay. You want to start? You want me to start?
Chapter 5. F.
F.
For fucking... I so need a better word. I need a good word to replace the arse word. There's just nothing that has the vindictive and everything you can get into how fucking muling, moronic, fucking idiot this guy is. F is for the crucifixion of Jesus was fatal.
So, the funny thing is Roman crucifixion has a big documentation about 100 years before they moved into the area of Israel / Judea area.
Yeah.
There is a documented battle where 6,000 people were crucified. Around 180, 160, something like that. I'm going from memory on this, but it's well documented. All the crucifixions that they took to task. Yeah. They marched in, defeated the enemy, pretty much had a pseudo trial for the guilty and strung them up on trees. And it's well documented. Now, it could be hyperbole, bolstered numbers for the higher ups. if I remember correctly, the history on it. But it goes into detail several times over how many times that they strung him up and they killed him and left him to rot.
What's your point?
People die by crucifixion.
Yeah.
And they had it well practiced long before Jesus, and you didn't have to be a god. You could be just a regular old Joe. You could just be a regular old seditionist. You could be a regular old leader of fire starters.
Introduction. In this chapter, we'll be taking a look at the facts of the resurrection of Jesus. So I want to point out this fact, and it's not what I say at the side, because what I say with the notes I put, I want to say to these people, to the people watching, when I put notes on, it's when I'm reading them in order. So when I come back through them, I'm like looking at them differently, right? So right here, I want everyone to take note of, surprisingly, when skeptics seek to discredit the central miracle of the New Testament, they seldom begin in the most obvious place.
Yes.
Rather than scrutinizing his appearances or the testimony of the early church, they often begin questioning whether Jesus actually died when he was crucified. Sorry, what?
Yes. Yeah, this is the most obvious place that we should start.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that there's more obvious places to start and we don't. But I'd like to point out, before we get to it, that later on, like on the next fucking page, right, this disingenuous piece of shit, and this is a good example of how he's a disingenuous piece of shit, says that this argument got abandoned by atheists long ago, right? And then starts saying, hey, it's Muslims that use it. So that's cool, right?
That's cool.
Because, like, when we're reading this point here, when we see the term skeptic, we're obviously supposed to look ahead and think that he means Muslims and not the atheists that he's been talking about. You know, like
when I first started reading this, if I remember when I first started reading this, I said to myself, he's talking about the swoon theory before he even got to the swoon theory. I was like, he's going to start talking about, and that's not the atheist, that's the Islamic. and sure enough, we're about to come to it.
See, I'm not the biggest knowledge. I don't have the biggest knowledge of like Muslim apologists and what they say about Christianity. So I didn't ever think that would come into their heads. What came into my head is why the fuck would we even judge the doubt of him dying when we could judge the fact that he was ever fucking born? Like, why would because like, wouldn't that also mean he didn't die? Because you could just say, hey, you know, the whole thing was made up and Jesus never fucking existed.
Yeah. I'm not I'm always confused on what a mythicist actually is, because I am a believer that Jesus, a god, is a myth.
No.
Jesus, a human, I don't believe is a god.
Right, but a Jesus mythicist means that the whole thing's a myth. That
the whole
Jesus
thing's a myth.
Never was even born.
Jesus just a character.
Yeah, it's just a character made up by Paul or the disciples or whoever.
Yeah. Okay. So what category would I be in then?
Well, do you think he was a real person?
Yeah, I can definitely believe that there was a John the Baptist and that he had a cousin, and that cousin got enamored with him, that there was heir apparents that John the Baptist inherited, and Jesus became the inheritor, and then several others, James, the brother of Jesus, was the inheritor of some variation of a, we're sick of these badasses kicking our ass all the time. The Greeks were here and they were kicking our asses. The Zoroastrianism, they were kicking our asses. Now the Romans are kicking our asses. And when we get to be in control again, we'd like to treat humanity this way. And I think this is a reflection of what we see in the New Testament and various other writings
Do you reckon?
of the time.
I'm very torn between the opinion that Jesus never existed to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was all made up by Paul.
That Jesus is just a character.
Yeah, that was created by Paul.
That was created by Paul. Yeah.
Or someone like Paul. I don't even like. If I was to think that Jesus didn't exist, then also I don't think the 12 disciples existed either.
I am along with people like Braxton Hunter. I mean, I see Braxton Hunter as a genuine believer.
Yes.
All right. I think you see him more as a huckster, and there's a possibility that
I don't. I've said this repeatedly. That's not what I think.
That's not what you think. Okay.
I think he's a true believer.
He's a true believer.
He's a disingenuous prick who lies about things to try and shore up his own belief.
Number one is what's his name? Oh shoot. I'm drawing a blank.
What?
Well, I apologize. My brain's not working.
Fair enough. Well, like I said, I was trying to say, the other thing is because I'm torn. I think that either that's the case, or Jesus,
I got it.
Yeah,
Kenneth Copeland. Kenneth Copeland's the number one that I believe. If I had to pick one person, I could say I don't think he actually believes what he's selling. I think he's in it for the huckster, for the grift. But I still don't know. I don't put 100% on Kenneth Copeland, and he's number one. And there's plenty of Joel Osteens and plenty of Greg. What's his name? Locke. Greg Locke.
All right.
For instance, like I somewhat suspect Greg Locke knows what he's doing in the huckster department versus believer, but he could be a genuine believer. I just don't know. And I believe Paul is in the same category. I don't think Paul was making things up, but I do believe Paul was convinced of something that may have not been true.
Nah, I don't. Paul very obviously didn't know jack shit about Jesus.
Correct. But that doesn't mean he didn't believe something about Jesus.
Yes, it does. It has to.
It doesn't. It doesn't have to.
Yes, of course it does.
Why would it have to? Being convinced of something that somebody else told you about?
No, because what? So Paul, he can't. He either has to be a true believer or he's making it up, right? There's no in between with Paul. There can't be. He's one of the first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And considering he's the only one we have authentic letters for, either he's telling the truth or he made it up, right?
I think he could be convinced of being what he tells the truth of and it not being true.
Right, but the thing is this is why I think he's making it all up. Because what, he just suddenly goes, it's a Damascus. I'm just having an hallucination that no one else can see. And by the way, it's telling me all the things that no one else knows. And also, I disagree with the original apostles. And it isn't like everything about it says he's making it up. Everything about what he says he's making it up. Like, I just don't see any way he could actually be a true believer. He treats himself like he is second to Jesus without actually knowing many facts about Jesus.
And again, that kind of proves the point that there's no need for a God to be present for the story to exist. It just takes somebody. You know what? We'll get into this when we do the. Let's revisit this when we get into the video that I'm going to play.
Fair enough. Can I get back to the point I was trying to finish?
Fit it.
Because I was saying, like, I think that either Jesus was completely made up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Jesus was nothing more than a crazy street preacher that a couple people believed in, that then Paul co-opted to change into something completely different that it was not meant to be.
Yeah. But 100% human. 0% God.
Cop. You threw me off. I was like, but Paul was kind of a cop. He was a Pharisee.
Yeah, he was. He was a Pharisee. He was kind of a cop of the
law.
of the law.
Very
Yeah.
specifically. And in fact, not only was he thinking of the law, he himself says that he used to go out and persecute people that didn't think things that he did.
That's what you do.
Apparently.
So
The argument is like this. Jesus had to die in order to rise from the dead. 2, he never really died. So 3, there was no resurrection. The idea is known as the swoon or apparent death theory. He swooned. Oh, I have died on the cross.
wow. That's when you make it a vaudevillian style.
That's what I think
She
of
just
the second I hear swoon. There's only 2 ways I ever think of swoon. It's that, or oh, she swooned, as in oh, she suddenly fell in love.
yeah.
She started
Right.
blushing. Like, come on.
Yeah, like in Godfather when he's in Sicily and meets the gal that he marries for a short time.
I mean, Coppola's daughter.
Coppola's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like he got hit by a thunderbolt. More Greek than Italian.
To be fair, I've not watched any of them films since I was a teenager.
Oh wow, I love them. It's been a while since I've watched them all the way through.
I'm very hit and miss with gangster stuff. I find most of it quite trite. After all that Jesus endured leading up to the crucifixion and the hours spent hanging on the tree, some claim that Jesus merely swooned on the cross. That is to say, he didn't really die. He simply feigned death or perhaps lost consciousness from blood loss. The soldiers thought he was dead, as did the Jews, but his disciples later revived him, and then after a short time, he began to reveal himself to others, giving the appearance of the resurrection. See, the thing is, right? What's the bets that this fucker is actually covering this? 1, because he got pissed off by a Muslim in some fucking chat room somewhere, right? And 2, like I haven't read the rest of these chapters yet because maybe he doesn't actually want to approach things like, there being no evidence for Jesus whatsoever or anything related to do with his birth, and even the earliest things that we say are even closely attested to Jesus are from letters from a very, very, quite possibly fucking grifter fucking piece of shit of Paul. Like, come on. See, that's what I find disingenuous about it. It's like the fact that, you kind of bring it up so you can avoid it to also make it look like you did mention it. Hey, maybe he mentions it later, but I somehow doubt it.
Have we gotten to the point where Jesus proves he was a god?
No.
Have we gotten to that point yet? Okay.
No.
We're there.
We're just talking about him dying. I know gods can't die, but this one can. Cold moment. Believe it or not, all we are trying to do here is show that Jesus died by Roman crucifixion. It's that simple. We just need to demonstrate this later so we can show that he really did rise from the dead. Which is cool, right? We don't need to show that he was alive. We don't need to show any of the evidence for any of this because we have fucking nothing. So if we make it look like we can approach a different subject that presupposes that he actually existed, then we wouldn't have to like come to the fact that even most scholars only accept that maybe he was alive because, well, we can multiply attest kind of several books, even though they're kind of basically the same thing. And like there's several writers that talked about him. I know it's like 100 years later, but nah. It doesn't matter. It's independently attested. We don't need any evidence whatsoever to back it up. It's independently attested, and that's a criterion, right?
I'm going to touch on that in my video, actually. Independently attested.
So, oh, and by the way, that was chapter 69. Nice.
Oh, this was page 69 of the book. How about that? Wow.
An old theory is making a comeback.
Yes, finally.
This sort of thinking is experiencing a renaissance. Whilst it was once a common claim made by atheist and agnostic scholars, it's actually resurfacing as an unexpected place. Wouldn't it? So before, when I said skeptics,
Yeah.
once it was common. It's not common now. So I'm just going to take this sentence bit by bit, right? With the continued rise of Islam, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it stopped. Like, Islam started in like 600 something, AD.
Mm-hmm.
Common era, whatever you want to use, depending on whether you want to bum Jesus or not. So maybe the continued rise doesn't really mean continued rise. Maybe it means actually this has been a pretty steady religion since the 600s. The fact that right-wing fuckers like this have spent, previous to 2001, had spent like 100 years fighting against communism or whatever, right? I know it's only 60 or 70, but my joke stands. And all of a sudden, they didn't have to fight the Ruskies anymore, and China wasn't the big evil anymore. So we needed to find someone new. So we attacked the left, and that wasn't working so well. And then 9/11 happened. It's Muslims. Oh, there's suddenly Muslims everywhere. And then 13 years later, with the continued rise of Islam, and it's like, what? Did it like die off and then come back? No. Islam has been steadily rising since the 600s. And this Christian fucker who takes that, so we're supposed to look at Islam and poo-poo it, right? Because Islam is the new kid on the block, even though it's 1400 years old, right? So then we're supposed to look down on that one because that one is taken from Judaism, right? So Islam says we're from Ishmael because the Jews of Medina gave Muhammad a place to stay, right? And we're supposed to think that's stupid because another Jew 600 years earlier said, well, there was this other Jew, and we should pay attention to him to not be Jews anymore, and in fact to be a Christian. So we're supposed to look at them and we're supposed to look at those Jews as not dumb because Braxton Cunter is a Christian, and the Muslim was supposed to look as dumb Jews, dumb Jewish offshoot because they're Muslim, you see? When really, they're both fucking idiotic. Pretty equally, and in almost exactly the same measure. Both of them say, well, the Jews are the original revelation, but fuck them, right? We're actually coming with the real revelation of God, which means you get to ignore this one. Fun, right?
That sounds fine.
Including Islamic apologetics. The tools abandoned by most atheists are now being adopted by Muslims. You see up here what it says? Surprisingly, when skeptics seek out to discredit the central miracle of the New Testament, they seldom begin in the most obvious place. It's skeptics that doubt the crucifixion. Fucking less than a page later, it debate and switch. It was the Muslims. Those dirty Muslims are coming over here and doing the things.
Yeah, I vaguely remember this in a sermon when I was a kid, that the swoon theory was a thing. And but I never, outside of that pulpit, I never heard anybody actually make that statement. And it wasn't until I learned about Islam, I don't know, 20 years later, that maybe it reemerged a little bit, but it was still a big nothing.
Yeah, it was because the swoon theory is a really, really old atheistic and fucking, we're talking late 1800s, early 1900s shit. But because they're 2,000 years old, it's only 100 years ago, it's still new.
Yeah. Relative to Islam and Christianity. It's pretty new.
The whole thing, it's not about, it doesn't matter that Muslims are saying it, right? It's the fact that atheists used to say it once upon a time.
Yeah.
And cunts like this know that none of their congregation knows that. So part of the whole point is to make us all look fucking stupid because, oh, you see these idiots still believing in the swoon theory?
I still believe. I believe that if you build a baseball field in the middle of an Iowa cornfield and you make a movie about it, that sooner or later the Major League Baseball will build a Major League Stadium there and do a hoop to do about it, and you can make art imitate life. And I think what we're seeing here is some variation of that. We have a person who is claiming to be God. They're claiming to be some variation of able to cheat death. And only a God could do that. And others, clearly, we can make a better religion without that. So Islam says, you know what, those guys over there, did you see how they did it? Yeah, we're going to do it better.
I'm going to make my own religion.
I'm going to make my own religion. I'm going to take my religion and go home.
Do you know what, BS? You're 100% right. The most amazing miracle of the New Testament isn't the resurrection. It is Matthew's zombie apocalypse, and not enough people talk about it. The fact that Matthew goes, and then zombies rose, and then all of the dead came out of the Mount of Olives and intermingled with everyone, and no one ever wrote it down anywhere. Except for me. Matthew.
Yeah. Yeah, the most amazing God of all time had history just pouring all over how much amazing the God was that was there at the time.
Yeah.
It just so happened to be zero. In fact, we're going to talk about Tacitus, which was nearly 100 years later.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, there's one much worse than 100 years later that he uses as evidence. Much worse. He uses one piece of evidence that's earliest documentation piece is found is from the 7th century.
Ooh. Can't wait.
We'll get to it.
Am I going to need to drink? Am I going to need to drink in this?
I've already been drinking.
Oh.
My dog pissed on my bed that I'm currently sat on because I have a bad back and I'm sleeping on the floor fucking 10 minutes before the stream started. So it's one of the reasons I'm a little antsy.
It's been a very good, no good day. I showed up late. You were flailing in the wind. I left you hanging. I tried to support you through the chat.
It's
I am so sorry.
Women fear.
Yeah. Well, Mrs. Tux is off to the airport, and I don't have to get off at the regular scheduled time. So I'll hopefully make up for it.
Well, we both might need each other for emotional support by the end of this.
Okay. Yes. Hold me.
If only we weren't so far away. You should rip your wife off You should rip the wife off the plane and get on the plane and come to me instead. It could be like Parent Trap from 1999.
Yes. I think you're right. All right.
Old kids films because I was a child then.
Let's see. Are we reading this surah?
Yeah.
All right. Because the Quran in surah.
I'm sorry, you pronounced that wrong. I used to watch a lot of George H.W. Bush and George Bush Jr. back in the day, and I think you'll find that's pronounced the crayon.
Pronounced the crayon.
Yeah, did you never notice that? George Bush Jr. always called the Quran the crayon. He called it a crayon.
Crayon. I don't remember that. I've drank and slept since the Bush administrations.
I still have scars. Go on.
Man. 4 verses 157 and 158 demands he did not die. They did not crucify him. Ellipsis. Muslims have developed a variety of theories as to what happened at the cross. Most take the words of the Quran to mean that rather than surviving the crucifixion, Jesus was not even the one nailed to the tree. Instead, God made it appear as though he was crucified. Some actually maintain that Judas Iscariot was transformed by God to have the appearance of Jesus so that he was mistakenly killed and Jesus escaped.
And, I love how he points out any of this. Like any information about this whatsoever. He just goes, no, they totally say this. And I'm Braxton Hunter. I'm trustworthy, right? They totally say this. They say it all the time. I mean, they might do. He's probably not lying about absolutely everything.
Well, if I remember correctly, there's also a Gnostic from the 5th century. I could be wrong on this, but there's believed a Gnostic that the person who helped him carry the cross, Jesus actually transformed and switched bodies with him.
Yes.
And so the person who carried the cross actually was the one that got crucified. And Jesus stood smiling by.
And why would we ever expect someone like Braxton fucking Cunter, that's the head of a fucking seminary, semological fucking grifter college university piece of shit, be expected to know that Gnostics came up with this shit before the Muslims?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, when you put it like that. Yes, I believe this Gnostic text was...
People like Bart fucking Ehrman who are properly fucking trained in the fucking thing, in the field. So we listen to them instead of grifter fucks like this one that were handed a university from the dead daddy.
There's a good chance of that. So I see you've got this highlighted in green. Did you have any notes on this?
Like I said, it was... green's always it's just a different note that always comes immediately after a yellow.
Okay. Got it.
Just so I know the two different things.
A few Muslim apologists have simply argued the old swoon theory in the same tradition of atheist scholars. This was the position, I don't know how to pronounce this, forgive me, Shabir Ali took in 2009 debate on the question, did Jesus rise from the dead?
Ooh.
I did not watch this debate.
No, neither did I.
I see it was a William Lane Craig debate, which I may have seen it. I've seen a lot of William Lane Craig debates. After he debated one of the Hitchens or one of the Sam Harrises. I'm not sure which. I started watching more and more of William Lane Craig because I was enamored with William Lane Craig in his ability to win debates, but never actually need to do anything except for to shorten the story. He's really good at saying, I said this and you didn't address it, therefore I win on it.
Yeah.
And
and Braxton Hunter is a big follower of that line of logic as well. Because his response to what, I know it's about what we said, but he really didn't give a shit. It's just like, that guy said this guy's very rude. He's like, well, this guy said a thing, but he's very nice.
Yeah.
So maybe he cares about you more. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just conceited.
So I may have watched this debate, but it's been so long that I just don't remember.
See, I never used to give a shit about Christians arguing with Muslims because I thought they were both fucking like deluded assholes. So I always thought it was a waste of time.
Yeah. When I started to trend into the pathway of Jesus might not be a god, and God might not be a god, and first, I still would consider a belief in God at the time, but the debate up in Milwaukee, I actually drove up to Milwaukee to watch Bart Ehrman and Robert Price debate.
Yeah.
Moderated by Matt Dillahunty. And I actually went up there and watched that debate.
I've never been to a debate.
Yeah. And that was kind of my first exposure to that in real life. So that's the only one I've gone to. Considered going to Baja Con. I wanted to go to Joe over at Kentucky Atheists
the ARC protest
ARC protest last year, but just
he didn't do it last year.
Yeah, I want to be an active participant. I'm not able to do it this year. I wanted to go to Baja Con, but it looks like I'm going to have to do something else instead. So,
do you know what? I nearly went, and then Matt Dillahunty fucked me over.
No,
I'm not even joking. Well, I am in a little bit. So it's I said no. I said take the money from Matt Dillahunty, because Joe's like, fucking Pregbone's giving me money. Like, I can pay for people to come over. Do you want to come over and like, say something, be there, do shit, whatever? And I'm like, nah, fucking, I'm shit. Fucking get someone useful. Go get fucking, whatever. And he
Go
was
get
like,
Jimmy. He's in Chicago. It's an easy drive. No, I would not be able to go. Got too much going on that week.
But like, no, take the fucking money and get like fucking Dillahunty and shit, and then Dillahunty cancelled on him.
Aw. That's no fun. Well.
Oh no, sorry, I got that wrong. It was Aaron Ra that cancelled on him.
Oh. Yeah, and that's the thing. Aaron Ra type of atheism, where you just go into the weeds on evolution, is not the reason I'm an atheist. So yeah, it's the opposite.
He's more against fundamentalists in specific than he is against Christianity on the whole.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I watch him a little bit, and I watch some of his videos. I'll go in ebbs and flows, where I'll watch about 4 or 5 of his videos once a year, and then just if he's on a live, like one of the atheist call-in shows, I'll see him and I'll watch him. But
see, I used to watch more atheist content, but I don't really watch anything anymore. I used to watch like shitloads of Logic. Used to watch loads of Apologia. Like I'm a skeptic until he turned back into a conspiracy fucking weirdo. Like stuff like that. And then nowadays, like before I can't remember who it was. Somebody was on Atheist Morning Network, and I'm like, who the fuck is this? And then everybody's like, oh, you should know who the fuck this is. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know every atheist going. Sorry. I'm supposed to.
I think it's weird. There's a group of atheists that I don't actually subscribe to. I like their content. Sir Sick and Logic and TMM, I think, are the top three that I would say are in that category.
Yeah,
I like their content, but I don't want to be notified of it. I do like that the algorithm points me towards them enough that I don't feel like I need to subscribe.
Yeah. I've been into Logic since I literally started watching Logic on his 4th video.
Oh wow.
I've been into YouTube atheism since like early 2010s, very early 2010s.
Funny enough, I supported Apologia fairly early on. Definitely not his 4th video, but long before he was big. Around 10,000, I'd say I started supporting him.
Yeah.
I don't even think he had a Patreon set up or anything like that at the time. He did put his PayPal out there, and I donated to that around that time.
Yeah.
And that was because of his work that he had done on the Answers in Genesis story about the flood movie that they had put on. And I really appreciated that. The first sponsor, how he has a list of credits, maybe not on all the videos, but some of them.
Yeah.
It was actually Logic was guest on Apologia's.
That's how I video. First heard Apologia.
Yeah, was so I found about a Logic through Apologia, actually.
I did it the opposite way around.
And you did it the opposite.
Yeah, I was into Logic, and he did those. There was a pair of videos with Apologia. One was on Logic's channel, and one was on Apologia's. And then he was doing that ham and egg stuff, and I thought that was quite good.
Oh yeah.
And fucking yeah. But then, like after I started an atheist channel like 2016, 2017, something like that, and then that failed, and then I just stopped watching it all after that. I'm only just starting to watch it again now. The only fucking atheist YouTubers I watch is small as fuck channels now. I interact with them.
I've got my community, and I like being a part of it, and I don't know. Slow and steady. I like the slow and steady. I really like Brandon from Mindshift. Caught him when he was fairly new.
Yeah.
There's a YouTuber called Scarlett that just came out with a video I saw earlier today. I found her when she had about 50 subs and told Nitty about it when he was live streaming one Sunday. I was like, hey, this person's got 50 subs. I think she's really good. And I don't know how many subs she's got now, but I know she's, if I had to guess, she's probably in the 4,000, 5,000 area.
Yeah.
I like her stuff.
I'll get to that area when I'm about 50.
But, yeah. I'm 50. I never made it there.
I'm 38. I've got 12 years.
Well, yeah, I'm in my mid 50s. Old as shit.
I mean, I don't think it's depressing.
Politics. Yeah.
That's assuming that atheists have to think the same. I mean, I definitely do look down on right-wing atheists because I don't understand it, but I don't expect them to think like me. I'm just like, why the fuck are you agreeing with the Christians still? It confuses me greatly. Look, it's the political arm. I wish I was on their side. Well, fucking believe in God then and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know what? The Christians are right about families and gays and all these other things. Well, just fucking start slobbering God's knob and get fucking paid for it. What are you being a fucking asshole for? Yeah.
Well.
See, I know that's contradictory, but it's cognitive dissonance, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it is. Then everybody's been on that knob, apparently.
Well, you got to give it a little taste just to see if you like it.
Yeah. Never been homo-god-erotic.
See, I never really thought of it that way till that South Park episode with was it Faith Plus One? Cartman making all the songs where he's like in love with Jesus. I want to get down on my knees and start pleasing Jesus. I want to feel his salvation all over my face. And like,
I have not seen this as best as I know. Oh my goodness.
Back in the day, like they do, like I say back in the day, they do like little 5-minute fucking commentaries on the DVDs. And on that episode, they're like, no, we made full versions of all these songs. We're just never releasing them. And it's like, well, why the fuck would you say that? You're a bunch of cunts.
That's funny. The simple problem for this is that to say the evidence for it is weak is to put the matter far too mildly.
And that's why we have to ignore the evidence for the actual crucifixion, because there's no evidence for the actual crucifixion outside of, well, it's in the Bible, right?
It's in the Bible. Check.
And like, I know, oh, some other people said that he was crucified. Well, if you've got people saying he was crucified over 100 years later, I don't give a flying fuck if you count that as evidence. Like, it's not. It's almost like anytime we go, oh, this person. So like when we go, Manetho, right, is so for those that don't know, Manetho is an Egyptian historian from like this 4th century BC, right? Or BC or whatever. Depending on whether you want to fucking slobble Jesus' novel or not. And fucking, so he talks about the Hyksos that happened 1,000 years before that. And you know why we take him seriously? Because when we go dig around places like Avaris, we find actual historical evidence carved into the fucking stone of the time. We find, stellas. We find actual artifacts. We find all sorts of shit that back up what the fuck he's saying. And we find nothing for Jesus. So I did want to clip this, but I was having a bad day and I didn't mean to. So Bart Ehrman, in one of his Great Courses lecture series, talks about the 4 things that they consider for, and then they don't even make it, oh, Jesus definitely said this, Jesus definitely said that. These are 4 criterion just to say, Jesus most likely did this. He's more likely to have done this. So there's the criterion of dissatisfaction, whereas if they were to say something that was against Christianity, it would make it more likely to be true, because why would they want to say it? There's multiple attestations. It's, oh, Paul talks about Jesus. and the Synoptic Gospels are an adaptation, and John is an adaptation, and the Gnostic Gospels are an adaptation. You know what I mean? I can't remember the other two. That's why I need to cut them out. I always forget the other two. But the thing is all these four criterion, they don't point out that he definitely lived. Just it's more likely that he did, because we have no physical evidence whatsoever.
We don't have any physical evidence. We don't have a historical true evidence. We have biblical accounts and pretty much end the list.
Yes. But, Christians will want to, they get all pissy when you say the Bible isn't proof. It isn't evidence. It's the claim. And then they'll come back. And I've heard Christians say this. There's a guy I had a guy called JCO or something on at the end of last year. And I'm trying to get him back on because he made a video saying like, hey, man, why can't you atheists just accept that, maybe the Bible isn't good evidence, but at least it's bad evidence. And it's like, really? Is this the line we're going down? That it's okay, you have to at least accept it's bad evidence. Like, fuck off. No. just because, like you say, it's bad evidence doesn't mean we're supposed to give a shit about it more. It just shows that you're arguing for bad evidence because you have no good evidence. If you had good evidence, you wouldn't be arguing that we should pay attention to the bad stuff. You'd be like, exactly, ignore the bad evidence because the evidence is shit. Look at this good evidence. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, basically, my biggest sticking point as an atheist is where's the authentication? There isn't one.
They argued about it 300 years later. So.
Yeah. Yeah, a group of men 250 years later said, oh, this is what Jesus is.
Yeah, but they were chosen by God. Is that not good enough for you?
Well, I'd like a God authentication of any of the creeds.
So what you're saying is we need a God of authentication to arise, to authenticate the God claims. And we can know which God claims are real and which God claims are false. And then we can only worship the God of authentication because he's the only one we know that exists.
We're about to find out exactly that God might be the biggest deceiver of all.
Bam.
So
Islam, including its primary document of faith, did not originate until roughly 600 years after the events of Jesus' life and ministry. To give it preeminence over primary texts from the first century is absurd. So when we look at the New Testament as primary texts over the Old Testament that stopped being written around the time of the Babylonian exile and had a great deal of it written around the 7th century BCE, that's like almost 600 years later that Jesus and all the Christians completely ignore. But, hey, Christians ripped off the Jews first. That makes them correct, you see? So if anybody does it afterwards, that's dumb. And how dare anybody say anything about them because they say something about somebody who came before them. And it's all right for them, but it's not all right for everyone else. Because theirs is the most true, even though theirs is the middle religion. It's not the new one that came up with new shit. It's not the originator. It's the first fucking copier. And we're like, yes, that's obviously the true one. When I make an official document and then I take it to a fucking copier and then I make a copy of it, I go, this is the original document. And everybody goes, yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I've used the example of in the movie Elf.
Yeah.
There's the question of the book that has a blank page at the end instead of the conclusion page. And the Hobbs is his name. He signed off on that blank page. That looks good. I'm gonna go get myself a tasty beverage. Be right back.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, this is what makes them correct. It's obvious. I love that shit. Like, it's like I say in the bottom of my little note here. So it's like, this is the people that come in from the book Isaiah, written by Hebrews, for the Hebrews and not to make another religion. They ignore what it's about and make up their own shit about it. I know it says it's about the coming of the kingdom of Assyria. Oh, sorry, about the king of Assyria, but it's not. It's definitely about Jesus. So when the Muslims say, "Well, your things about Jesus aren't correct," we're getting it wrong. I want to know why it's okay for you and not them. Is it because they're brown, or is it just because they're a different religion? It's fucking pathetic. We're supposed to look at all these people and all the things they do and shit like this and go, no, these are totally fine and upstanding human beings, and I don't fucking understand it. We're just supposed to take it that we're good on faith. It's how about this? How about suck a dick, go fuck yourself, and fuck off? How about all of those things all at once? You know, like the film. It's fucking... I don't know. I'm just going to carry on. If the claims of most Muslims are true, then God made it appear as though Jesus was crucified when he was not. Then God is the great deceiver. Moreover, there are a number of items that prove to the fatal nature of his crucifixion. Do you know, I want to look at the beginning a bit. I want to see if I'm making a... So, from these titles, Jesus appeared to others after his death. Jesus' disciples were committed to the point of death. I can't wait to make fun of that one. And the testimony of man that Jesus was raised. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So, in fact, he's only talking about the death of Jesus because he doesn't want to talk about the birth of Jesus as being proof, right? Because there's no fucking proof for it whatsoever. He thinks he can bring up a couple quotes here about his death, so that must mean, well, then the whole thing must be true. All the other stuff must be taken on fact, right? Because we're only, from what those fucking titles said, we're only supposed to care about Jesus after his death. We're not supposed to care about his life. That's insane. Oh, I'll get back down there. I should have just dragged it. It does make all that very interesting. Excuse me. Oh, it's so fucking humid. It's not even warm. It's just humid. It's cold. It's bullshit. Oh, come on. Sorry, I clicked over to... I absentmindedly do shit. I just looked over and saw that there's a fucking Kevin James film coming out. Like he's fucking Bob Odenkirk and John Wick. Like, oh my god. I think I can hear a Jimmy approaching. He's just off screen. He's just jacking off a little. Just a little bit. Not to completion or anything. He just wants, he just wants to have some fun. He's having a good time. He's not doing it on camera. What's wrong with it? See, you can hear him laughing. He's chuckling to himself.
That's right.
See? I called him on and he sat right down. He's like, no, it's not doing anything. I didn't do nothing.
How did you know? No, so, I went and got myself a beers. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to try to feed the dog. And she's always a little depressed, of course. So I went and I I took a sip of the beer that I poured because I needed one. Listening to you read this poor thing. So I put you in my ear and went and fed the dog. And then I did funnel myself a little bit to pay the rent on some of the water that I drank right before the stream. So
yeah, but it's not really, if you're paying the rent, it's different.
Yeah. and then I came back, and then you made that comment. That was funny. So
you heard what I said about the actual chapter names, then, didn't you?
So refresh my memory of the chapter names.
So I just looked, because I haven't looked at the chapter names. I've been reading them as they go, right? So I can actually make this criticism that I half-assed made before, right? So we got Jesus appeared to others after his death. The disciples were committed to the point of death, and the testimony of the man is of a man that's raised, right?
Yeah.
So none of this actually talks about his birth or life or any proof of it. So before, when I made a half-assed complaint about maybe he says it later and maybe this is why he's covering the death. No, he only gives a shit about what happens to Jesus afterwards. What he does during his life and all those things don't count as any sort of proof to, I'm sorry, Jimmy, but this bald griftery cunt.
Well, I got news for you. Yeah. I think Braxton wrote the best line, and that is, God could be the great deceiver. That's speaking my language.
Well,
well done, Braxton.
Yeah. The way I look at it is God lies about a lot of stuff all the time. He lies about dinosaur bones. He lies about, the devil. He lies about whether he's good. He lies about whether he's going to kill you. So he lies about all sorts of fucking things. He lies all the time because apparently lying's only bad if we do it.
Well, that's because you can't morally judge the moral giver.
Silly me. The evidence. First, it must be understood that there is little question among the majority of scholars that Jesus, in fact, died by Roman crucifixion. Okay.
Yes. Jesus, a human, died by Roman crucifixion.
Yeah.
I am fully on board with Josh somebody, transliteration, died because he said he was some variation of a king, a monarchy, that he was setting up a monarchy or preparing a monarchy for somebody other than the Romans. Yes, I believe that is a capital offense that a real God would definitely need to take part of so that he can be a god. I was being facetious, just in case you didn't know.
Oh, shit. You had me convinced. Are you ready for some grade A emotional manipulation?
Oh, boy. Boy, am I. Oh, boy.
Consider the Roman soldiers who carried out the sentence. Full stop. Period. These men were professional killers. Full stop. Period. Making an art out of ending lives, comma. They were so brutal in their executions that the thought of a man surviving is absurd. Do you know what? So when, I don't know, American soldiers, who are professional killers, who make an art out of ending lives, and their executions so brutal that it's inconceivable that people could have lived. Why is it different for Americans than it is for the Romans? Huh?
Yeah. When I read this, I thought of the Tower of London tours.
I thought really modern and American, and I thought of Abu Ghraib.
Okay.
Abu Ghraib, what's the other one? What's that one that was in Bad Boys 2?
I don't think I saw Bad Boys 2.
Oh, Guantanamo Bay.
Guantanamo Bay. I mean, that's not really set up for execution. That's set up for...
People died there under torture.
Under torture, yeah.
That's a fucking execution.
Yeah. They chose they let this guy die like 2 or 3 times and then revived him. And then
I'd say
got him
that's
back
more
to
brutal.
health, threw him back in a cell. He went on a hunger strike or some variation of a death wish.
And I think that's more brutal.
That's it. Oh, yes, definitely. It's
so that's what I mean. It's peak emotional manipulation, because back in the day it's more brutal, right? So you're not supposed to think of people now. He's a right wing cunt. So like, he's amazing, and it's like, is it? Seems like they're a bunch of ruthless thugs under the thumb of, I don't know, sociopathic dictators. But hey, America, we're supposed to, I get this shit over here. They're protecting our freedom. They're protecting your freedom. It's like, when? When was the last time they actually did this? Honestly, when was the last time they protected American freedom? Because the last thing I can think of is World War fucking II.
Yeah.
Because you know what? The Koreans, they weren't threatening our freedoms. Neither were the Vietnamese. Neither was Saddam Hussein. He just wanted oil in Iran and Kuwait the first time. The second time was a lie. Admittedly, Osama bin Laden wanted us to bring pain. But honestly, his way worked. He got America to destroy itself through overspending and overreach of the military, and made its citizens hate it because of that. He actually succeeded in almost all of his aims.
Yeah, I think when we get coming up here, I think we should make a good comparison to Tacitus's reference to Osama bin Laden.
Fair enough.
Added to the crucifixion was the scourging. It was a horrendous ordeal that ended with the subject dramatically injured and fast on his way to death. Clearly, a man could not survive after scourging for very long.
It's not your fault. I didn't mark it. Do you know what they did to people to make crucifixions end quicker?
I don't know.
They broke your legs.
Oh, yeah.
If they broke your legs, you weren't able to support yourself, so you died of suffocation.
So James Tabor, Dr. James Tabor just came out with a video. He had come out with a video about 1.5 years ago that was on the subject of kind of shrouds that are successful and crucifixion investigations, where nails were, where lumber or trees were arranged.
Yeah.
And I mean, his investigation's pretty thorough. The evidence pretty much supports that the visual narrative we have now is probably wrong.
Yeah.
But they believed that he was actually their best guess that they actually didn't have that tall of a cross. Like, usually when they show it, they show like this 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot cross section.
Yeah.
Support beams.
You were lucky to get cross section, to be honest.
And most of the time, it was some variation of a T shape where they threw your arms around it, nailed them to the nailed your hands.
Well, nailed your wrists.
No, nailed your hands.
You couldn't nail the hands.
No. They would throw the arms behind, and they would nail it to the back. The bear of the weight was under this portion of the arm.
But the way the hands
and then they nailed the hands.
Yeah, we found bodies with holes in the wrists.
They found far more with them in the hands.
I'd like to see that evidence.
Yeah. And that, because they used to think that they put it into the cross section here so that the weight could be supported by the 2 bones here. They thought that's where they originally did it.
They did it in the arm because they were trying to make you bleed out, because they also tied your arms up. And
so they also positioned it so it kind of looks like now that there's a little more vagueness on how they put it, but you actually weren't on that tall of a cross. You know, and they would shorten you. So literally, your feet were nailed to the sides, but shortened up. So they would literally have your knees almost straight out. And it looks like it wasn't that tall of a cross. Hey, they were masters at it. They could just, they didn't need as much wood if they did it that way. And
exactly. Because the Romans fucking were they
were pros.
a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Because it was a punishment that you were supposed to watch. So, like, a more recent example, it's not crucifixion, is so when Gaddafi was in power, Libya, occasionally he would round up a bunch of dissidents and then he would hang them from all the street lamps. And then, like, he would then reroute all the traffic through, sorry, I'm being ignorant, I can't remember Libya's capital. Not Benghazi, because that's the other place. That was
well, am I drawing a blank? Cairo?
No, that's Egypt.
Libya. Beirut.
Nope.
Oh, that's Lebanon. Tripoli.
Yeah. That's why I couldn't think of it. It sounds too Italian. I got the Tripoli. I get a nice spaghetti.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like he would reroute all the traffic through Tripoli down these roads so they would see all the fucking corpses and he'd go, don't let it be you. So the Romans, when they crucified people, they would put it like the Golgotha and everything was out of the fucking one of the main ways out of the town. So people could see this shit. People just lined the roads with all these people going, don't be these people. And they would leave that's one of the other reasons, that Jesus wasn't crucified. He was put into a tomb. Okay. Well, considering that no one that was crucified ever has any records of actually being put in a tomb because you were crucified, you lost your Roman citizenship, you lost all rights, and you were put up there until literally you decomposed on the thing onto the ground and spilling your organs everywhere, because you were a message.
You were a message. It's a perfect way to put it. Let's see. Should we watch a clip of this video on how he kind of positions it?
No, I'd rather look into it more fully. I can't.
Okay. How about I post, or I give to you, and you post and pin or something like that in the chat.
I can do that.
Let me find the video, and I'll post it. I don't think I'm a mod.
Well, I'll just make you a mod because you should be.
James Taylor. Here we go.
It's one of those things that I never think of, and I can't do from on here, so I have to just a second.
There we go. It was only one day ago.
Put something in the chat. I can't make you a mod unless you put something.
There we go.
Word. There you go. Word up.
There we go.
Oh, I'm so warm underneath it. This shitty weather is making it so humid. It's cold but humid. It's bullshit.
And do you have a pinned message now? I'm gonna pin.
Oh shit! Message. I didn't pin it. I turned it off because I'm an idiot.
Oh.
I'm like, oh no, I didn't have one. No, I don't.
Okay.
I've been getting a lot of crazies coming in, so I didn't put it on. I didn't put it on for this one.
Oh, you got one right here.
Hey, now don't say that about yourself.
Okay. Let's see. Where was I? Horrendous ordeal that ended with the subject dramatically injured and fast on his way to death. Clearly a man could not survive after a scourging for very long. If Jesus had been released from his bloody mess, he still would not have lived. Furthermore, when you remember that this was only the beginning. Now, this is what I refer to as sizzlemanship. This is selling the sizzle and not the steak. We never get to bite into the steak being described to us. It becomes obvious how brutal the experience was. Next came the crucifixion itself.
No. Do you know why this is? I've just totally figured it out. You know why this is?
Why is this?
Passion of the Christ.
The Passion. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the film. So you got to care more about Jesus being tortured and all that stuff. So it should be pretty strong in your head, because that wasn't out very long before this was written.
It was out about 10 years before.
Was
it? Came out in 03 or 04 maybe.
No way.
Yeah, Passion was
fucking hell, so it was. God damn it, I thought that was like 2008.
No. And in all honesty, I don't find it as a religious spiritual movie. I find it as an action flick with a little bit of Jesus loves you.
No, it's a guilt trip. You're just supposed to.
It's a guilt trip. Yeah.
You're supposed to be.
Look at what Jesus' mother had to go through.
He did this for your sins, and you're there denying him. How dare you, you son of a bitch!
I wasn't an atheist then, and I still found everything about it was like, that's the best action movie I think I've ever seen.
I remember my nan thought I was gay not long after this film came out. And she sent, from America, she sent me a portable DVD player that was, like, at the time was like £200-300, and like just a DVD of The Passion of the Christ. This will make you not gay, and it's like, I was already not gay. But you have.
I was already not gay.
Yeah, but you have long hair, and you're an atheist. Okay.
Oh, that.
Yeah. Well, you know, she, like, I say she was an older woman, but she was only like 45 at the time.
That's funny. That's funny. That's a throwback. For those of you who've only been watching for 20 minutes, that was a throwback to about 25 minutes ago for somebody who might be old if they reached 50.
That's not what I was pointing out. I was trying
not. Oh, okay.
No.
I thought it was a good throwback.
No, I was pointing out that my grandmother was only 45 when I was nearly 20.
Wow. Oh my.
That's more what I was pointing out. Sorry, go
on. Let's see. It's hard to imagine any man living through such a thing, particularly without the medical help that we have in the modern world.
But he's not a man, he's the Son of God.
He's the Son of God, yeah.
It's only a bit of death.
His wounds are just a breath of God away, so yeah.
Like, also, if God's all powerful, why the fuck did it take him 3 days? Is it because, like, you don't believe that he's, like, 3 days? You're not going to believe that he comes back from the dead unless he disappears for 3 days?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the discussion has been made that 3 days is is kind of difficult to reconcile from the four gospel accounts.
Yeah, it's like the world's worst magic trick.
Yeah.
You know, pick a card, any card. Just pick a card, pick any card. You picked your card, look at the card, put it back in, don't tell me what the card is. Pick the card, I'll shuffle the deck around, come back to me in 3 days.
Yeah.
Was this your card 3 days later? Was this your card? Oh my god, I couldn't remember what it was. It totally is, isn't it? Yes, it is.
This is your card. Let's see. The claim that the soldier failed in their attempt to end the life of Jesus would not stick. The Roman legions would roar with laughter at hearing such a suggestion. Eminent New Testament scholar N.T. Wright, he explains, and N.T. Wright is the master of sizzlemanship.
Is he?
Oh.
I always get really bored every time I'm watching to him. He doesn't grip me.
Yeah. Just talks. It goes endlessly on. Look up his video about Romans 7 and 8, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And I mean, he sells faith He delivers the sizzle. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. The hoary old theory that Jesus did not really die on the cross, but revived in the cool of the tomb, has likewise nothing to recommend it. And it is noticeably important that even those historians who are passionately committed to denying the resurrection do not go by this route.
But I thought that Braxton Hunter did say that. He said that all of us skeptics do, in fact, go by that route.
We do. I pretty sure that Jesus died. If he was a human, if he was a god, and he was able to survive this stuff, well then great. I think he could have written this himself.
Do you think that it means that Braxton Hunter is disagreeing with eminent New Testament scholar N.T. Wright?
Well, this goes on.
No, it's a legitimate question. Do you actually think he's disagreeing with him, or do you just think the statement at the beginning of the chapter was entirely disingenuous? Just making a point for a friend? That's not really a friend. There might be lurking that likes to turn up occasionally at the end of chats, at the end of stream, pretending like he's been the whole time.
Yeah.
Hunter.
Oh, it could be. Oh, yeah. Do you think he's lurking?
It's not been. Hey, there's been a few streams where he's turned up in like the last 5 minutes and gone, I completely disagree. And it's like, it's funny how you turned up now to say this after we've already said that we're finishing the fucking thing. You grifty, skeevy fuck.
Yeah. Where was I? Noticeably important that even those historians who are passionately committed to denying the resurrection do not go by this route, because we don't.
No, because it's fucking.
I don't consider myself an historian or a scholar.
I do consider myself a historian, not a professional one, but a historian.
Right. Roman soldiers, after all, were rather good at killing people, and when given a rebel leader to practice on, they would have had several motives for making sure the job was done properly. Ellipsis. I regard this conclusion, that in brackets, that Jesus died, as coming in the same sort of category of historical probability, so high as to be visually certain as the death of Augustus in AD 14 or the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70.
I'm going to make a comment.
Sure.
Jerusalem didn't fall in AD 70. That's really fucking dumb. Do you know what they mean by when they say something fell in that respect? It means it doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist anymore. Okay.
And Jerusalem, funnily enough, still exists.
It still exists.
It's almost like all they did was destroy the temple and then kill, the dissidents and the rebellious people, and then
but no stone was unturned, Zach.
So, in fact, eminent New Testament scholar N.T. fucking Wright. In fact, actually, no, Jerusalem didn't fall. The army fell. Jerusalem still stood after that. So, in fact, yes, it does actually hold up to a similar sense of scrutiny, because they're both kind of wrong. To say that, I've been trying to point out several times, just saying that it's obvious that Jesus died. What's that fallacy when you presuppose the answer?
Let's see. Fun. I don't. I see a silhouette of a man.
Yes, that one. But it's like you fucking. If you're just throwing up red herrings, going attack, and straw men going attack this thing here, right? You're supposed to be angry about the Jesus not dying thing. It's like, yeah, but the whole thing ignores the fact that actually people call into question his birth. So if Jesus wasn't born, he didn't fucking die. So if we only approach his death, we don't have to approach the fact that we don't have any evidence for his birth.
As already mentioned, a Roman executioner was familiar with death. It would be an
no, it is
insult to
Switzerland. It
say
is
of
that
him.
one.
What's that?
I was just saying, no, it is that one, the Christian asshole.
Well, what were you saying about slobbing the knob?
About what? Oh, slobble the nobble.
Slobble the nobble. Let's see. It would be an insult to say of him that he was mistaken about Jesus' fatality. For reasons such as this, German atheist New Testament scholar Gerd Ludemann writes, Jesus' death as a consequence of crucifixion is indisputable. However, if this were the end of the story, we would not be compelled to accept Christianity.
I mean, I wasn't compelled to be a Christian before it either, so.
I mean, I wanted to be a Christian. I believed this stuff. I picked up the book. I thought it was my owner's manual.
I mean, I believed it because my parents told me that. Because I was such a wee bairn. And by bairn, I mean the Scottish meaning for small child.
Hmm.
Aye, the wee
I
bairn.
don't believe I knew that.
Until just you know, if you ever hear a Scottish person go, "Oh, it's me wee bairns," they mean children.
Ah. Is that a reference to the fire in your loins?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's probably Gaelic, to be honest.
Ah. I'm learning something. I learn so much. I get to play every Tuesday with Zach. I learn so much.
I aim to educate.
Core moment.
Core moment! We don't get to shout death or anything in this one because he hasn't, capitalized any, bold capitalized any words.
No.
So
yeah.
Apparently saying death of Jesus might be a bit too touchy for this anti-Christian fuck.
We know that Jesus really did die because the scourging alone would have killed him. Roman soldiers were expert killers, and it would likely be impossible to survive a crucifixion, even with modern medicine. I don't believe that's true. I believe there's... isn't there a guy in the Philippines who's crucified himself like nearly 30 times or something like that?
Yeah, but he doesn't do it properly. Like, he kind of does it to make it like he whips himself and he puts gashes on himself, but he doesn't break his legs and he doesn't actually stab himself and he doesn't actually do the things. He makes it look like it's uncomfortable there, and then
always looks on the bright side of life. All right, where was I? Let's see. It would likely be impossible to survive a crucifixion, even with modern medicine. The historians universally agree that Jesus was crucified by the Romans.
Okay, go.
Yeah, I think they did an effective job of killing a human being. I don't believe they killed a god.
No,
and I don't even think it's possible to kill the god, even if he's half human.
Well,
it seems like
ask Hercules.
Hercules.
My little boy, Hercules. All the historians in the world are getting very angry. I know it's not pronounced Hercules, but
that Jesus died is important to establish, however, so the resurrection case can get off the ground. Once the case is made that the crucifixion was fatal for Jesus, it makes the appearances defended in the next chapter much more interesting. How could it be that the man who is dead was then seen alive by others in various locations and by multitudes of people? Thus, the F in facts is a virtual piece of case.
A vital piece of the case.
A vital piece of the case.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about his life or the fact that he was born.
That he definitely died.
Mistletoe killed my uncle. He wasn't a god, so that's fine. He was just dipped in.
So you've got this highlighted.
For the core moment, yes.
These objections can get kind of technical. Oh, yeah. I remember reading this. Go, what the hell?
He said this every fucking time. At least
I already
in
know.
every chapter. This
I
is
already
really
know
technical.
why this is highlighted. This is brilliant, Zach. Yeah. If you're a beginner, it might be a good idea to just focus on the actual evidence we covered so far. Yeah, all those arguments, not evidence. You didn't bring up any evidence. Just
He's not even mentioned
arguments.
the evidence for this yet.
You can always come back to these objections once you're grown in your understanding a little more. If you think that you're ready to keep reading, just don't get discouraged if it's tough at first. Go do your best.
Do none of his fucking readers get tired of getting spoken down to like they're a fucking mewling idiot? Like, every 5 seconds, don't worry now, little Christian believers. This sounds very technical, but it's not as difficult as it is. So really, if you just think about it, it's quite simple. It's fine, right? So I really need to ask the question: is he the fucking moron, or does he think that his readers are? Does he think that it's really technical and he has a hard time understanding all this shit? So he expects, because he's the astute, austere head of a university, thumbs and braces, right? That fucking, if he finds it difficult being the astute fucking, sorry, let me just, because if he thinks, where is it?
Moreover, I've never ever been an atheist, and I'm completely aware this is going to sound smug, even though I don't mean it that way. But the reality is, I think I understand the arguments for and defenses of atheist positions better than most atheists I know.
So either he fucking believes that shit, right? And he's talking down to everyone because he's going, I'm the head of this fucking fake university that can't get properly accredited because every time it does, the US Senate or whatever takes it away because we're a grifter as fuck university. And I was handed to it by my dad, and I did nothing of merit to fucking earn it myself. Or because he did nothing of merit to earn it himself, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. This is all really fucking dumb for him. And that bit that I just put on is all fucking bluster, and he really is a fucking moron and expects everyone to be dumber than him because he's higher up in the fucking, economical food chain. I'm like, he does this at least once a chapter, and several times, multiple times. Like, really, you gotta stop everyone just to fucking coddle him for a second and go, don't worry, it might be a little hard for little Timmy, but if you think about it, you'll eventually get it. And it's like, you fucking, come on. You're not even talking about anything that's even vaguely technical. You're not even talking about anything that's vaguely hard to understand. Or did you just put this in here? Or is this the third option? I suppose there's always a third option. Options are very rarely binary. Like, maybe the third option is he knows it's a pile of shit. And he knows it's a pile of windbag shit, so he's trying to put it out like it's putting this out there because, well, it's kind of technical, which makes it sound more important than it is. So I guess in the end, he still thinks his readers are a fucking bunch of mewling idiots because they're supposed to fall for that.
Yeah, Braxton. It's kind of a redundancy. Like, you've said something like this, like, just assume that, I don't know. You're writing a book. You're writing it for an audience. I mean, maybe this is coaching them. I don't know.
It's weird, isn't
it? I mean, the claim that you've already brought facts and all you've brought are arguments, and now you're getting to the facts, just seems like a misstep in the writing.
Well, we're not even on the facts yet.
And we haven't even gotten to the facts. We've just gotten to, you're establishing that Jesus died. And there's kind of a no shit Sherlock moment there that Jesus died. I think all humans died from the first century.
Very technical. Humans die.
Yeah.
Very technical. Humans die of crucifixion.
Nothing remarkable about it. But the story is, have you ever heard of there's an introduction to the Princeton, I can't remember it, Saul, I can't remember his last name, Saul
Rosenberg.
something. No, it's something like Lieberstein.
Yeah.
Saul Lieberstein. I think I've got that name correct, but I'm not positive.
I think I know who you're
nonsense. Nonsense is nonsense, but the history of nonsense is science.
Good line.
And it's the introduction to a. Just put that in your Google.
Well,
Nonsense is nonsense, but the history of nonsense is science. So,
but I think I figured out something. I think I figured out the actual difference between the call and the facts. It's that they're both exactly the same, and they're both making arguments, except in the facts, he doesn't have actual syllogistic structures to make arguments out of. So these aren't the call.
I mean, there is some factualness to this. I mean, he's about to present the first bit of historical evidence, and and if those are facts that support that a human being was both a God spirit and human, great. It's almost like having real evidence, but it just doesn't quite meet the criteria that I was looking for.
Well, when you have much less evidence to back up your opinions, you have a much smaller view on evidence. So you're going to think less of it. So you expect less of it.
Yeah, the difference is he believes Paul when he reads Paul. He believes Mark, Matthew, and John.
Even though they were never written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
We're gonna get to that too.
Are we?
Oh yeah. When I play that video, I think.
All right, fair enough. Sorry, I thought you were about him and his book. No, cool beans.
No, when we play the video, we're gonna go into everything that is a fact about what's written.
One of my favorite facts about the Bible is if you took everything that Paul said about Jesus specifically, like about his life and his personage, you would be able to fit it on one index card.
Yeah. There's very little information that's actually from Jesus. Yeah. But the apocalyptic, I think there are some apocalyptic tropes that end up in his. Because remember, these letters aren't really the word of God.
No. They were never meant to be.
Let's create this institution under the occupation of Rome. I'm your Roman leader. Making it better for the future world. And by the way, I'm not a scam artist, but I might be a scam artist.
The thing is if you look at so we got 13 letters from Paul. 12 letters from Paul. One of them doesn't even say it's from Paul. Just because it's an epistle, they act like it is. I think it's Hebrews. Hebrews never says
Hebrews is definitely not from Paul, but there's a lot of assumption that it was.
Yeah.
But it's unanimous. It's pretty much unanimous amongst biblical and regular scholars, scholastic scholars, that it was not by Paul.
Yeah. So, and then we only have, was it 6 or 7 actual lessons?
Seven definitely, and I've heard a couple are disputed, like you said.
It's not the case. I disagree with definitely. They say definitely, but I disagree.
Well, I've also seen evidence that some of the Paul letters were written as put dates. I've seen evidence. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that some of the Paul letters were written actually up to about 150 years before Jesus.
I've never seen any evidence stating that whatsoever.
Yeah, there is. It's not very good, but that one or some of the letters are some variation of another Paul that existed in. They have 4 sequences of names of governors or somebody in charge of the region, and that they've associated with some of the things that were said could be true in one of any of those 4 similar named governors or whoever was in charge of a region. and they've kind of lined them up, and I've seen the evidence. It's weak sauce. It's no better than whoever wrote. It's not any better evidence than whoever wrote the pseudepigraphic letters.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they can tell some of the writing styles, or even some of the construction, the sentence constructions styles, that it was either somebody different or a different time. And I've seen the evidence. It's weak sauce, but I've seen it. You know, it's kind of like my Mary story, that Mary is actually Jesus' brother, and Mary's grandmother is actually the mother of Jesus.
Fair enough. I've never seen anything like this.
No, it's kind of an outlier, but it's there. I mean,
right. I was saying something quite important. Do you remember what I was saying?
Let's see. I don't know. What were you saying? You were saying something important, and I screwed it all up.
Yeah.
That basically we're going to come to the conclusion when we play my video, and I start asking you a question. If you're a Christian or you're a Christian apologist, you have an obligation to come up with facts.
Nope.
About this resurrection, because this is supposed to be a fact, that Jesus was crucified and he resurrected.
Right. I wasn't going to say anything about that. I was speaking about Paul.
Oh, Paul?
Yeah.
Oh, and I interrupted with there's a chance that some of the letters were written up to 150 years before Jesus.
Yes, right before that I was saying something.
Oh, shit. Paul.
I
don't remember. I already drank my beers. I grabbed 3 of them. I already drank 2.5 of them.
Fuck, what was I saying?
I don't know. Might have to pay rent on my beer here in a minute.
Paul, everything Paul said about Jesus. Oh yeah, because Paul, no, I can't fucking remember.
Because he wasn't the author of Hebrews. He was the author of 1st and 2nd Corinthians.
Yeah, I was saying, because it was my leading on point was, of those 7 books, he says something and he doesn't in the other ones, and I can't remember what it was. Fuck. Oh well, whatever.
I don't know. He definitely wrote Romans. Definitely wrote.
Yeah, it's not about the specific books. It's about facts that are only in the books that he wrote. Well, I'm not even certain that Paul existed.
Really?
Yeah, why would I be? Because a bunch of books say that they were written by the same guy?
Yeah. That clearly have half of what he wrote pseudepigraphic.
Well, yeah, because it's not even just that. It's just out of all the people in the Bible, right? We have almost no archaeological evidence for any of them.
Well, I doubt there's going to be archaeology evidence of me when I go beyond the rainbow.
So when we look at we just say, oh, these texts were written at this time, right? Well, all right then. We can tell from the things that are said in them that they were probably written closer together and they were written by the same person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think Paul existed. I'm just not convinced by it. I just think that Paul existed because it's easier for arguments. But I don't. How are we supposed to trust if the Bible is so untrustworthy about all this different shit and all these different books aren't written by the people that they say they are? Then why is Paul supposed to be a real person? All these other they go, later he's going to talk about Tacitus and all these he's going to mention 3 people that talk about Jesus, but not Paul, right? Nobody ever talks about Paul. They always talk about Jesus and his religion. Paul comes later.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's a bunch of pseudepigrapha and they come 300 years later and then there's Paul, right? And I know there's people like Athanasius that in the year 400 say his books are correct. But that's still 300 years later.
Ignatius would have been.
No, Athanasius.
Oh, Athanasius.
Because Athanasius is the first Christian that says that all the books of the Bible that we have now, that are not in the Catholic one, but that are in the normal Bible, he's the first one that says that they should all be there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like all these other books that probably should have been there, Barnabas, Titus, and all this different shit. But Paul's really important for no real reason. Because Paul isn't talking about how great Jesus is. He isn't talking about how to live like Jesus. All of Paul's letters are telling people how to deal in churches that aren't the churches that we deal with nowadays.
Yeah.
So all of Paul's letters are like, I came to this town and I saw these women, and these women formed a church with me because, Paul says women are good. And people like to forget that fact because the fake Pauline letters say that they're bad.
No, well, kind of.
No, they totally do. The authentic Pauline epistles actually thank women for being important at the heads of the church and thank specific women for being leaders of their church, very specifically.
Okay. Isn't there something, a reference in 1 Corinthians 9, if I remember correctly?
I mean...
8 or 9.
About what?
I've drank and slept since
I just mean like not liking them or liking them or... Because I know he says in one of the big ones, the women have to be silent in church. But he also says in pro-Pauline letters, women are really good in church, actually, because most of the women... Because it was mostly women that were spreading the early church anyway.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I got a little burpee.
Sorry, I'm looking for my lighter. Bart Ehrman says that most of early religion was early Christianity, or a great deal of it anyway, was spread around by the wives of merchants that would like go on the thing with the merchant husbands and then like fucking speak to the other merchant wives in the area and like other wives in the area and spread it that way. And it's one of the reasons that early Christianity was didn't have churches and all that stuff. It was a home-based religion.
Mm-hmm.
That was the point I was getting to. And talking about Paul and stuff like that. Do you know what Paul thought? Paul thought the end of the world was coming, right?
Oh, correct. Yeah.
But people ignore that fact. I can't remember why that was important, but that was the bit I was trying to say before. Because Paul isn't acting like this should be... Paul isn't acting like he's a church father. Paul isn't acting like you should listen to him. Paul is like, no, the end is fucking coming. Just do what Jesus says to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I think he was a genuine believer. But that somebody had convinced him of what he believed, not that he invented it and invented a character to base it off of. Like,
the problem with that is there's absolutely no evidence of that whatsoever, even if you count in the Bible.
That's the thing. If I have a photograph, I don't know who took the photograph unless they assign their name to it. You can take a selfie and you can be in it.
No, I know, but Paul himself...
Paul is convinced of something. He's going around. Somebody talks him out of it.
Is he convinced?
I think he becomes convinced. Yeah.
He says that he's starting churches and that people should live by his rule. It doesn't mean he's convinced, though.
I believe I can be convinced of things, and Paul can be convinced of something like Christianity.
Yeah.
And be the microphone that's coming from the quiet part of the faction.
I don't know. I think if that was the case, I don't think he would be writing letters.
I'm not saying he didn't have anything. Well, he clearly benefited off of it. I think in my investigation into the Jerusalem donation, he clearly was accused of misappropriating funds.
Everything he says is really sketchy. Because he goes, right, Jesus came to me on the road from Damascus. Nobody else saw it, but I totally saw him. And then I stayed and talked with him. And then I didn't speak to any of the disciples for 3 to 5 years or whatever, because I didn't want them to alter what I said. So even by his own admission, he's going, Nah, I didn't want to listen to anyone. I had my own shit. And then even when he sees the disciples, when he speaks to the 12 men that apparently were walking with Jesus for years on end, right? He disagrees with them at every stage. The only thing they agree on is that Jesus is maybe the Son of God. And, like, that's not even certain. Because
Let's see.
each of the Gospels that would existed around the time Paul was around were trying to say different theological points about Jesus. Because they were all trying to say that either Jesus was God, or that Jesus was a man infested by God, or that Jesus was all of them or none of them, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, Paul couldn't have had any decent information to go off, and he disagreed with the people that went around with him. So if we take him at his word, even by his own admission, like, not by his own admission, if I hear anyone else say those things about a subject, I instantly think they're a grifter. I don't see why I should think differently about Paul.
Yeah.
Because, like, I always hear conspiracy theorists to say that shit. Well, you know, I didn't speak to him, but I know I'm right.
Yeah. That's a very valid point.
It's all speculation. I'm speaking like I know, but it's all speculation.
Yeah, I reserve, and maybe it's the Sermon on the Mount, judge not, ye be not judged. But I try to reserve any kind of.
But if they judge,
that person is not. That person is not a true Christian. You know, no true Scotsman.
No true Christian.
no true Christian. And saying Paul wasn't a true Christian, and he may have been a scam artist, he may have been a true believer, he may have actually had the Spirit of the Lord descend upon him and blind him.
I agree with BS. I could agree that is closer, that he was actually more beefing with the Ebionites.
Beefing with the Ebionites, yeah.
Yeah. Because they were like, no, Jesus is a Jew, yo. Jesus is a Jew, and the only Jesus thing you should care about is the Sermon on the Mount. So you should eschew all of your earthly possessions, and you should eschew all these things, because they are bad and evil, and you should be a Jew. It's one of the reasons, like, not for that reason specifically, but it's one of the reasons I totally think Paul's a grifter. I think that Paul, and I don't really have a great deal of evidence for this, it's one of my conspiracy theories, that Paul actually might have seen a burgeoning Christianity, or maybe Ebionism, maybe Gnosticism, whatever, right? But sees this burgeoning Jesus worship and sees it as maybe like a precursor to the destruction of Jerusalem, you know, at the hands of the Romans in the 70 AD. And because of that, tries to guide the burgeoning Christianity away from Judaism to make it its own religion.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't have any proof to back that up. It just seems like a human thing.
It feels real. It just feels like that's true.
Well, that's why I call it my conspiracy theory.
I have faith in this truth from Jack. He is gotta be a good spiritual leader. He wouldn't lead me astray down the primrose path of death and destruction. I see nothing but a trail of green shrubs and sunlight and just spirits poking through the clouds when I think of Zach and his prophecy.
Well, you know, I have this effect on people. And, you know, I only get such things from our Lord and Savior, Sir Dev Attenborough. He shows us the light and warmth that we find from all animal species and plant species. In fact, insect, crustacean, arthropod, and every other arthropod we can think of species on the planet. All of them should bring us closer together. And David Attenborough just shows us unity we can all reach together to reach harmony. Thank you for my TED Talk.
Amen.
Amen. I need to think of a hand. I keep on I keep on going to do the cross, and I need to think of a new thing for Attenborough.
Yes, David.
Attenborough praised. It's the A.
David Attenborough really knows and loves Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe.
He loves his giraffes, as we all should. Do you ever watch giraffes fight?
Yeah, they do this wicked neck whip against each other.
Fucking mental.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to like look at a giraffe and you go, look at these peaceful, graceful, beautiful creatures.
Yeah, they do like a neck snap.
Yeah,
it just looks like
fucking brutal.
Yeah, it looks like a baseball swing sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
Like,
that's what happens when you have a 20-foot long neck made of solid bone and solid muscle. Just so you can reach the tops of some trees.
Yeah, it was. We call it an arms race when we're, whatever we're doing in the world. Here in the great states of America. But there's a neck race that was going on at some point.
Yeah, sorry. I tried to make a pun out of that, and I didn't even say it correct.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, I had my aneurysm live on the show.
I've had
fun. All right. How do we know that a New Testament author didn't fabricate the crucifixion? This objection is somewhat moot, since the majority of scholars will grant that Jesus did, in fact, die by crucifixion. However, something should be said as to why this is taken as historically true. We have multiple independent attestations of the death of Jesus. That is to say, several authors refer to it as separate writings. The story of the crucifixion appears in all four Gospels accounts.
I didn't catch this, so I didn't put it as a thing.
Yeah.
The story of the crucifixion appears in... Oh, no. That is to say, several authors refer to it in separate writings. That's not what independent attestation means.
Yeah. This might be a good time to bring up my video.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
Just because I was going to let you carry on. I just wanted to point out what independent attestation actually means.
Yeah.
Independent attestation doesn't mean that several authors in different writings do it. No. So, you can say that Matthew, Mark, and John, or is it Luke, are all, the synoptic gospels.
The synoptics are Matthew, Mark, and Luke.
Right, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, sorry.
And it is suspected there is a synoptic problem still in John, but just...
No, there isn't.
Just a touch of it.
Well, no. The thing is, right, my point overall is that you can't say that those three books are independently have independent attestation, because they are all taking it from the same source. That does not mean independent attestation. So when you put it across such ways, you're being a disingenuous fuck, aren't you, Braxton? Because he likes to talk about how one of his best bunnies is one of those like fucking, he's like a biblical scholar and he's so funny, he does the humor so much better than you, right? So your little knobhead fucking biblical scholar should be able to tell you that that's not what independent attestation means. It doesn't mean independent authors writing separate writings. What it means is those independent authors writing separate writings that have no root to another writing.
Yeah.
So
that's what it means.
So there's even Gnostic gospels that can also be attributed to bits of the Q document that the synoptic gospels are attributed to, and because of that, none of them are independently. So maybe if we actually took an extra second to explain things, I guess we could have a clearer, light shining on us all. But we couldn't have that because it would make you more wrong. I'm done.
That is to say, several authors refer to it in separate writings. The story of the crucifixion appears in all 4 gospel accounts and is referred to in the letters of Paul. This is recorded by various authors lends credibility to the case. However,
Paul is one author.
Paul's an author.
None of his things attest that Jesus existed. His writings attest that he thinks he saw Jesus. It doesn't attest that he's dead, that he died, or he was born, or was even crucified. What him saying to do this means is that he thinks he saw him. It doesn't mean that he actually existed. That's really fucking dumb. And considering, like I said, that all the synoptic gospels are not independently attested, independently attributed to not the same source, it means that even in the examples he's using right now, got one source.
One. Well, no.
And one source that we can't even find. We just suspect. Hey.
If one wishes to lay eyes on evidence from outside the Bible, it is ample. Ample. Do you hear that? It's ample.
Ample.
So, the greatest historian of ancient Rome, Cornelius Tacitus, records.
I mean, to be fair,
now, here's the thing.
Tacitus is the greatest historian of ancient Rome.
I don't believe he's the greatest historian of ancient Rome, but
who is then?
I don't know.
It ain't plenty.
Kip Davis mentioned a specific historian who is following around many of these Romans in charge, and basically uses him as a indefensible. How come this person didn't say, "Oh, by the way, God was here on Earth and we murdered him"? At the time,
yeah,
like. The absence of evidence isn't supposed to be evidence of absence, but...
Sorry, Bob is the greatest.
Bob, yes.
I can't believe I
but there's two or three historians at the time. And here's the thing. I always look at many of the politicians at the time. Seneca, for instance, is definitely somebody who is comparable to Jesus in terms of he was born approximately the same year. He had about a 65-year-old life span and is fairly well documented, and we have his writings still today. Now, if Seneca can do it, certainly God can do it.
Yeah, but God just keeps on coming to these illiterate fucks that don't know how to read and write.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like the video I was watching last night that said one of the greatest enemies of, like, you know, Christianity was higher education. I feel like that's a similar thing. God only comes to those that don't know better.
So, if I remember correctly,
because if he's real, he should come to people that know better.
Tacitus is reporting, in this why why Rome is in a second war with the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Because we kicked them so thoroughly to the curb once upon a time. It's almost, in reading up on why he records this, he's recording for, I believe, the Senate in 116, why we're in a second war with this evil ideology.
Yeah.
Which I believe in Braxton's translation here, he removes the evil ideology part of it.
Does he? Interesting.
If I remember correctly. Let me read it.
My point about it was Tacitus wasn't born until 20 years after Jesus died.
You're correct. He was born.
So I have it written here.
This is about 64 AD.
No.
This clip is about 64 AD.
No, it isn't.
Written in 116 during the Second Jewish Roman conflict.
What? That doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
If I misunderstood.
He is basically casting a shadow back on how they got into the war, the first war.
Right. So he's
This is a
right.
history lesson of how they got into the
He's
first
looking
war
back, Stefan, he's
while
looking
they're
back
in the second war.
50 years.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm all right. That I completely
Nobody
misunderstood what you were saying.
nobody
The way I
talked
heard
about
that was that he wrote it when he was 14.
No, he did not write this when he was 14. He wrote this when he was
very old. Yeah. My thing is the thing I saw that I looked up said he wrote it in 112, so it's only 4 years.
Somewhere, he basically it was. It's estimated that it's 116. He delivers it. It's entered into the record anyway in 116. Whether he wrote it in 116 is that could, but the second war started in 115.
Yeah,
and this was entered into the narrative as why we were in the first one in the first place and why we're in this war now. So I likened this as in 2003, we got into a war with Afghanistan over Osama bin Laden. And to me, this is a very similar narrative to if somebody in 20 years from now starts talking about how we got into the war on terror
the problem
and
is,
Osama bin Laden.
The problem is you're not going back far enough.
No, I'm talking about 20 years in the future from now. If I were a senator and I preached on why we have to go back to Afghanistan.
Stop it. You're adding too much math. The easy way to say this is more like somebody now, right, talking about the advent of why Vietnam happened.
Yeah, about that time space. Yes, exactly. But the terrorist attack of 1993 evolution to September 11th, 2001 has a similar, we got into a war not because of the first time, the second time, or the third time. It was the fourth time that we got into that war with essentially aggression towards the United States. And that one was a big one. Because the World Trade Centers were bombed in 93.
In 2001.
And then the embassies in 98, and then the USS Cole, and then September 11th.
Right, but September 11th and both World Trade Center were done by the same one, and the other two weren't.
So the first one was not Al Qaeda, but it was a family member of Osama bin Laden's, basically lieutenant. I can't remember his name. Or general, if you want to say it.
As far as I remember, Osama bin Laden was behind the car bomb on the World Trade Center.
Osama bin Laden was not on the 93. So I can't remember the guy's name, but his nephew orchestrated. So essentially, Osama bin Laden's general, if there was a such thing in the Al Qaeda organization, his general had a nephew who orchestrated the 1993 bombings. And that general then was he was one of the ace cards. When they assigned him a card 52. He was something like the Ace of Hearts or something like that. So there is a family association, but Al Qaeda did not carry out the 93 bombing. If I remember correctly, it was 93. But there was an association of the region and associates.
The war didn't start because of the first one.
The war didn't start because of the first one. The war started because of the fourth one.
The thing is so the Jews, even in the rebellion Tacitus is on about, is the third rebellion, like actual war.
So the war didn't start for a couple of more years after these fires, but the rebellions were building up, and it was a first rebellion from the Jews, then a second rebellion, and then
like because the Maccabeans fought an actual war, and that was like years before Jesus. And then there was the revolt in 70 CE, was like a 5-10 year war, and then there was a further war after that.
So this is referring to basically the 66 riots through the start of the Jewish war. this specific reference by Tacitus is referring to the 66 riots. In 64, it basically started with the fire in Rome, and they blamed it on the evil ideology and these superstitious people from that region.
Right.
And as the pressure cooker built, as Nero is clearly, the rumors are that he started it or these other folks started it. And no matter how you slice it, these folks that are considered quote unquote Christians or Christus, the good, whoever the good is, they started the fire, and Nero's trying to quash the rumors that he started. And it's very similar, in my opinion, to September 11th. The Bush administration started the war in Iraq by potentially, the rumors are that he may have been behind the fix to make it look like somebody else did it so that he could start getting into wars.
What?
Yeah. You've never heard the conspiracy theories around Bush administration was an inside job?
Yeah,
Put in your Google search, like,
yeah, I know. I just don't believe
September 11th inside job.
I understand that there's conspiracy theories around 9/11. Yeah. It's just they're bullshit.
Right. They might be, but they're still rumors.
So?
And the Bush administration still had to squash them.
No, they didn't.
Oh, yeah. You never saw the publications that came out like 3 years after?
What do you want about? They didn't try to. They played into it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did.
No, I know. But the thing is this is nothing like those situations in the slightest. Because even before Bush lied about going into Iraq, he already started the war in Afghanistan.
Yes, but it's still rumors persisting. I have a clip. Let's you know what? Let's play a clip.
I just
Pictures
don't
worth 1,000 words.
3 different wars and thingy. We don't have that in this situation. They weren't caused by terrorist attacks. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah. I know. Oh, why does it keep defaulting to this?
Because Eve Monks is shit. Something I'm starting to become convinced of over the past couple of weeks. Everyone, including me, is having trouble with this fucking site.
All right, let's see. What do I have saved as? I have in my mind that one of these days I'll make a video that correlates these two scenarios.
I just do not see how you can do it in the slightest.
Because there were rumors that Bush administration had to contend
about everything. If we're going to count being rumors, then everything's connected that way because everything has rumors. Like, the difference between rumors in 2003 to rumors in Roman times is that rumors were more valid because there was no way of keeping decent like fucking what's it called? Didn't have any decent ways of actually doing shit. No. Oh, sorry.
I have to go pay.
Yeah, but the problem is sorry, I read that wrong. Yeah, it was, but the thing is he didn't go into Afghanistan with the idea of going into Iraq. He wanted to go into Iraq first before Afghanistan. He said this during the presidential debates with fucking Al Gore and talked about regime change directly in Iraq a year and a half before 9/11 and a year before he could have had any what's it called? The thing Condoleezza Rice has, Osama bin Laden determined to attack inside of America. Yeah, like I said, I misread what you said at first.
Well, maybe I have it under Tacitus.
When I first read it, I thought you were saying that the first Iraq Desert Storm was precursor to Afghanistan because my brain read it wrong very quickly.
Okay, here we go. Found the perfect clip. We are totally gonna. I'm gonna hit share.
Yeah.
So why did America? Who do you think did 9/11?
Us.
So why did America do it?
To finish Bush 1's job.
Where'd you read this?
I served 11 years in
Where in the military were you?
Syria.
Yeah, I want the full conspiracy. Let's go.
I was at the VA a year and a half after an operation that we went to. Breaking news, the operation that we did a year and a half ago popped up on the news. I immediately went to go check, and I'm like, is this modern? And they said, yes. And I said, no, it's not. I need to go talk to mental health because I was there when that happened.
Oh, so you go and say, like, what's on the news isn't true.
Yes.
Am I going crazy?
Yeah, and it broke my whole reality.
He cannot stop drinking. I think he's telling the truth. Why did you just drink?
What event is he talking about?
Something during pre 9/11.
Right, like what event?
And what?
What event, though? He doesn't say what event.
Yeah,
This nightmare is the Bermuda
Syria.
Triangle real.
Yes, but it's because of a series of wins, not anything else.
Nerd alert.
All right, let's see what this one is.
If you just go study the war in Iraq, how these people who wanted this war for years before 9/11, literally, if you go read this out, Project for a New American Century, which was the think tank of all the neocons, it was like 20 people who were the signatories on it. It was like Dick Cheney and Paul Wolfowitz, Richard Pearl. I think 10 of the 20 went on to have high-level positions in George W. Bush's administration. And they wrote before 9/11 that our whole plan here is to fight multiple wars in the Middle East, and the first stop is overthrowing Saddam Hussein. And in their own words, they wrote, but we probably can't get public support for that short of another Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
And then after 9/11, they went, got it. This is and then like 1 million people got killed in Iraq. Like just that alone.
What are you trying to convince me of here? Because this doesn't say that they did 9/11 to make Iraq happen.
This conspiracy, only the rumors of wars. These are rumors of wars. These are rumors that the Bush administration was involved in the rumors of wars.
But it's not the rumors of wars. They said very explicitly this is what they wanted to do. It's not a rumor. It's their aim.
So Nero is fighting rumors of having started the fire. And that's...
They did start the fire. It's completely different.
It's... The point of this clip, this reading that we're about to read in his book, in Braxton's book, is referring to Nero being confronted about all these wars, about this fire, him starting the fire.
Right.
Hence, to suppress the rumor, he falsely charged with the guilt and punished with the most exquisite tortures. So this Roman entry into the history books isn't as much about Jesus being a god, Jesus being a human, Jesus being murdered. This is about whether or not Nero started the war, or what if I showed you a chapter in verses in Luke in which there's a discussion about, hey, can we go and bring that fire from heaven, that really cool fire from heaven we've heard about that you got, Jesus? And Jesus is like, no, you don't do that.
Right.
All right. So Christians clearly from the Luke narrative.
Yeah, but the difference, it's still different because you're like saying that Bush fabricated things to go into Iraq isn't the same as saying, well, so the people in Jerusalem were causing a nuisance to the Romans and had been for over a century, right? They had been since the Maccabean rebellion. It's literally the whole point of like being an apocalypticist in some ways. It was like, no, this evil order is going to end and this evil order is Rome, right?
Correct. So
when they fabricated things to go into Iraq, they were completely making things up about things that didn't happen. Right? Whereas Nero used the unrest to rebuild Rome.
So yes, emerging from the ashes, the phoenix emerging from the ashes. You're focusing on that part of it. I'm focusing on the part in which Nero has been I mean, this ends his career. These rumors end his career. They didn't end Bush's career.
Like Bush's career. What do you want about?
The rumors that he was an inside job to Osama bin Laden.
His career and got him elected a second time.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not the same. It's even the way you're describing it.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the rumor part of it. Just focus on the suppress the rumor. Did the Bush administration have to suppress
the rumor? Then everything is connected because things are rumors. People make rumors about stuff, and people do things to try and quash rumors.
So did Osama bin Laden working with the Bush administration rumor have to be squashed? Or at least dealt with?
What do you want about Osama bin Laden did work with the Bush family?
Exactly.
Right, so it's not a rumor.
But whether the Bush administration actually worked with them to orchestrate these...
No, I'm sorry, but the difference is it was a matter of record that people knew that the Bush family was intertwined with, like, Osama bin Laden. Because of the first the Afghanistan war under Reagan with Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney.
No.
Not Dick Cheney. Him and Rumsfeld working in the Department of State or whatnot. That's the Interior, isn't it? The wartime place, the Pentagon, right? Under Reagan, flooding arms into Iraq so they could do this later.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different situation.
It's the historical reference of if someday somebody is referring to the Bush administration being intertwined with Osama bin Laden has a similarity to whether or not Nero rumored to have and orchestrated somebody to start the fires.
How is Nero in league with Jesus?
He's not. The followers of Jesus.
Exactly.
Jesus is long gone.
Bush was actually in league with Osama bin Laden.
So what does that have to do with the future and the past of?
Because it means that people are doing it for very different reasons, and it's only the appearance of being similar.
The similarity between Osama bin Laden being murdered by the Obama administration, a continuation of a war on terror, has a similarity to rumors of how you got into the war in the first place.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it's close enough.
The wars happened was because they literally invaded someone else's country as an invading force.
Wait. Who did? The Roman?
Yeah.
The Romans did? The Romans invaded nothing. They inherited the land from invading the Greeks roughly 100 years before Jesus' crucifixion.
How is that any different?
They became the controller of the land.
Right, exactly. They were invaders and they were occupiers, which is what I said.
They were the victor goes the spoils. Judea was the spoils.
That doesn't mean that the people can't fucking like revolt against it. It doesn't mean that like
I don't understand what the sticking point is here.
I just do not see the similarities between the two things. Because
between squashing rumors.
We're talking about rumors. We're talking about Nero ordering the death of all these people so he could burn Rome to rebuild it, and this guy calling it out years later, trying to stop a further war. I do not see how that is similar to like
what timeline. What timeline are you referring to? Because I don't understand what timeline you're referring to. Because I'm referring to you
literally said that Tacitus is saying this. Yes. About the war against the Jews in the 60s.
There's no war. This is about a fire in
Rome.
A
war. Josephus. No. How wasn't it? How wasn't it a war?
The war doesn't start for another 2 years. Well, the war starts after the rebellion, which is actually somewhere closer to like 5 years away.
Oh my fucking God. So, like I was trying to say, he is trying to stop the war of fucking 115 by talking about the war of 60.
No, they're already in that war.
What you said before.
They're already in the second war. They're already in the second war.
Oh my God, can I finish a sentence? You said that like he was talking about the war in 60 and the riots that happened for and why it happened, trying to stop a war that happened in 116.
No, I didn't say that.
How didn't you say that before?
They are already in the second war when he says this.
The third war.
There's no third war.
There ain't no fucking Jerusalem war going on at 115.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
How?
They're in the second Jewish war. Roman Jewish war.
The second Jewish war is not in 110.
The second Jewish war is 115 to 117.
God.
This is just a history
right
lesson.
Here it actually says 132 to 135.
No. Tacitus isn't alive by then.
This is what I'm fucking looking at. The Bar Kokhba revolt. Oh, so we got the... oh, right. So this isn't counting the Maccabean rebellion. That's the problem. Well, it's one of the problems.
So the Despera revolt, it's actually called the Despera revolt.
Well, there's also the Kittos War.
So... yeah,
the Kittos War took place from 116 to 118, and then there's the Diaspora Revolt from 115 to 117.
The Despera revolt is what I'm referring to, which is referred to
But
as the second Jewish...
all of these, there's another revolt that takes place before the year 0 called the Maccabean Revolt.
Like this is what I'm talking about.
My
this one
point
right
is
here.
Still, he's talking about a war in 115 using the War of 60, right? As why it shouldn't be done. That's what I was saying to begin with.
Not why it shouldn't be done. Why they are in the second war kicking these Jewish butts over again.
Right. But how does that... There's no second war against Afghanistan.
Yet. It hasn't been 50, 60 years later yet.
Okay.
So this is a hypothetical if there's a war in 20 years.
So this whole idea is based upon a war that hasn't happened yet.
The rumor, I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm talking about the Jewish-Roman War.
Yes.
A war that if a senator, if a politician enters into the record, if a politician enters into the record, hypothetically, in 20 years, how we got into the first Afghanistan war and the disgraceful end to that war, right? And why we got into it were the rumors that the Bush administration had actually squashed this, the video clips that I played, right? That why we got into the war was in 93 this happened, in 98 this happened, in 2000 this happened, in 2001 this happened, and that's how we got into the war. The whole focus of what's on Tacitus' recording is because they're in a second war that started with a fire in Rome that was blamed, Nero was controlling a rumor, that was then blamed on the Jews, or quote-unquote the Christus.
War, and the first war happened because of another war you're ignoring.
There was constant battles going on from 83 BC with the Romans in that area.
Yeah,
from 83 BC to 63 BC, there were 4 wars.
No.
And that's how Rome became the inhabitor of that land.
Okay.
Right? And then there were constant uprisings during that. I'm not talking about one specific one, but I am talking about, in the rumor part of it, 64 around the fires in Rome. And those were blamed on Jews, or the Christus of that time, in Judea, which it says procurator of Judea in the region of Tiberias. A pernicious, I don't even know what this word is. A pernicious superstition, reprised for a time, broke out again, not only through Judea, where the mischief originating, but through the city of Rome also. Okay. So the main context of what I'm trying to point out is there were rumors with the Bush administration, and they had to deal with those rumors just the same. That is the focus of this historical event. Is in 64 there were fires, in 66 there was rebellions, and the people who were punished, it says, hence the suppress the rumor, he falsely charged with the guilt and punished with the utmost exquisite tortures, the persons commonly called Christians, or the Christus.
Right.
So the similarity is we can confidently say, even though I don't have physical evidence, Osama bin Laden was carried out by an administration that followed up from the Bush administration. And just because you name Obama in that,
I mean, I never named Obama. You did.
I did, right. But this is a comparable of modern day to 66, the 66 rebellion, to the 70 something war, 68 through I don't remember how long the war went, but the siege of Jerusalem. So, I mean, basically the rumor part of it.
Yeah, I know. I still don't see it.
What don't you understand, Zach?
I don't know how many times I have to say. One involves rumors, as in people had an idea but didn't know because it was fucking Rome and there's no physical evidence of everything. And now we're talking about they had to deal with rumors that were only started because they were lying their ass off about everything, and we had physical evidence to prove otherwise. Right? Talking about starting wars that had nothing to do with wars that came before and had nothing to do with actually being there and actually, I don't know, being a conquering force, until after we were there. So all these things don't fucking jive to me in the slightest. None of all it does is give the appearance of maybe being similar. I just do not see it.
So if Osama bin Laden is one time someday maybe regarded as a hero.
I mean, he's regarded as a hero now by plenty of people.
So. Exactly.
Right, but the difference is hero worship depends on which side of the fucking, revolutionary fucking line you're on. So, the people in the Boston Tea Party to Americans are fucking heroes, right? But to the British, they're not.
Right.
So it doesn't matter?
The comparable isn't necessarily about the pedantic about whether there was lying and deception going on amongst the administration.
The reasons they were done for, like I've said.
The point is this is a historical record entered into a Senate. Future, the equivalency of a future Senate that we haven't had a second war with Afghanistan of.
But we haven't had a second war with Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's because the time hasn't transpired.
No, I know, but if we're going to try and say that they have to be comparable because they might eventually fight a war,
right?
But yeah, it's
this isn't being entered into the historical record because he was like, "Wow, there's the most amazing God once upon a time." It's not entered for that reason. It's entered for the reason of we used to fight with these guys. We're in a fight.
With historical relevance and comparisons to the historical relevance and comparisons of the previous time.
Zach, let me diagram this a little bit. Try to mentally imagine this. I've
tried with that, so fair enough. I'll try.
We have a past war that occurred. All right. We have nobody, we have plenty of people who documented the history of this war. We don't have the equivalency in this just short paragraph of that stuff regarded by historians surrounding Jesus. So you're right. It's not a fair equivalence. But what we do have is somebody entering into the record, not as a historian, but as somebody who is presenting a speech on a Senate floor. Okay?
Right.
In the past, about a past war. They're not giving it at the time of the war that they're in. They're doing it on a future war about the time just after Jesus. And that's why I say the hypothetical 20 years from now, somebody enters into the
no, I know, but that's why, my original point back at the start, why do we need to add 20 years when a more apt example is how we got into Vietnam that happened around exactly the same amount of time?
I don't have an equivalency of
the Gulf of Tonkin,
an Osama bin Laden. I don't have any equivalency of an Osama bin Laden in the reference to Vietnam.
Well, of course you do, Mao. You have also the leader of fucking Vietnam.
Unfortunately, I don't know that history to make the comparable.
Yeah, but the thing is Vietnam obviously had a leader, right? And then obviously the American government was lying about the reasons that we went in, right?
Correct.
So, and considering it was around the same time, I just think it's a more apt example.
Did we have an assassination-ish on the leader of Mao? Like, I don't remember. I don't remember an equivalent.
Mao is the instigating force of China because it was a proxy war with thingy. But I can't remember.
Who's the Jesus in your scenario?
I can't remember.
Osama bin Laden is the Jesus in my scenario.
But Osama bin Laden, no. Okay. I mean, we have actual physical proof that Osama bin Laden existed.
We do, yeah. But we're also in the time. I mean, when this is being recorded in the Senate, in the Roman Senate, there's no actual historical evidence that Jesus existed. He's just referring to the names as, hey, they were commonly called Christians, or Christus. They were actually called Christus, which just means the good. They were just some Jews who believed that they were, doing the right thing and that their God was going to save them. But the point with this, that Tacitus entry here, is not that it's talking about the most amazing God that died. It's talking about how we got into the rebellion that then went into a war, which, well, now we're fighting another war just like it. And we're kicking their asses just the exact same that we did the last time.
But even your explanation of that, do you not understand why a Christian would see that as evidence?
I don't know. What are you talking about? What's that? Would define that.
So if the whole thing is just, well, it's Tacitus talking a little bit later about why this war started, right? And in the Senate setting, do you not see why a Christian would see that as evidence then?
No.
Why wouldn't they?
It's evidence. Clearly, this person is commonly called Christians, but at the time, if it had been recorded in 64, then it would be evidence. Recording it in 16, they're now called Christians, but at the time they were called Christus.
Right.
They weren't called Christians.
Like
Christus just means the good.
Whoa. You're answering the wrong question. What I said is do you not see why they would find that evidence? Not why we don't.
Christians will find this as evidence because in 116, they entered into the Senate about 64.
Yes.
About a rumor of a fire.
Yes.
And that who started that fire, who got blamed for starting that fire.
And do you not see how using Osama bin Laden 20 years from now actually furthers their idea of it being evidence?
But Osama bin Laden isn't a god.
No. So?
Yet.
But it doesn't matter. We're talking about religious people.
Osama bin Laden. If all these Jesus converted start worshipping Osama bin Laden, then
the actual best bit of not evidence of this is the fact that it was written in 115, right? The fact that it was written 80 years later is the best evidence that it's bullshit, because it's not just saying, hey, these people are listening to these people that listen to these people. It's people that weren't even fucking alive during the time going with no standardized record keeping in the fucking slightest, going, yeah, these people existed from 80 years ago.
Evil superstitious people with an evil ideology existed and were blamed for starting a fire.
Exactly. But the thing is that's not what we're talking about. We're talking... It doesn't matter. Let's just move on.
I don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand.
I know
neither the contention.
So it's just going nowhere. So let's just move on.
Okay. I'm going to go take a potty break. Be right back.
This refers to the death of Jesus explicitly and may indirectly refer to his resurrection, and then it may be the only way of understanding the phrase pernicious superstition. Yet the testimonies from literature abound. Whatever. He literally says that the next thing that this is just indirectly talking about his resurrection. These people don't give a shit. The fact that there's no fucking physical evidence for all of this matters more than any fucking anything. Yet the testimonies from ancient literature abound. Lucian of Samosata explains the Christians, they worship a man to this day. The personage introduced to the novel writes, was crucified on that account. A man that was born in around 125 fucking CE and wrote it in 165, which is 130 years later. But hey, the fact that they don't have any closer fucking proof to anything, and they have to go back to these people fucking 60 years later, 100 years later, should tell you all you fucking need. When historians actually talk about, oh, this person said shit later, like I was saying about Manetho before, we have actual historical evidence that points to other things that matters a lot more than somebody said about it fucking a century later. So the fact that none of these fuckers have any physical evidence and they have nothing except for somebody talking about this shit later should point to all that fucking means. The fact that they have to pull down to the bottom of this fucking barrel and just go, no, this is where it should, this is the really important fucking nugget of information. This is where it's important. Nothing closer, nothing anything. It just, no. That's what's fucking important. Finally, Mara Bar-Serapian asks, what advantage did the Athenians gain from putting Socrates to death? Famine and plague came upon them as a judgment for their crime. What advantage did the men of Samos gain from burning Pythagoras? In a moment, the land was covered with sand. Indeed. What advantage did the Jews gain from executing the wise king? It was just after their kingdom was abolished. that their kingdom was abolished. Therefore, we have considerable data from Christians and non-Christians from within and outside the Bible to just testify to Jesus' death. Forget that this fucking manuscript from Mara Serapian comes from the fucking 6th to 7th century fucking CE. And we think maybe came from 73, maybe the 3rd century, and we don't fucking know. Should tell you everything we need to know. But nah, it doesn't matter, because all these fucks care about is trying to find just the littlest thing. Because who gives a flying fuck about when Tacitus wrote this? Serapian fucking said, Barra Serapian said this. Oh, fuck, it was the person before. Lucian says this. We need to go 100 years later before we have anybody saying anything. But, because we don't want to talk about the birth and the life, we don't talk about Josephus. It's interesting that we don't talk about Josephus, right? A man who was alive closer to all this than even fucking Paul, right? But Paul and fucking stupid goddamn fucking thing, move it away. I hate this fucking website. Oh my fucking god, I'm clicking on the fucking thing. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, I kept requesting I share my screen or something.
No, I'm trying to click off having your thing up there and it just was not coming on.
It wasn't responding.
No.
Oh my.
So why the fuck should we give a shit what any of these fucking people say about it unless they're talking immediately afterwards? And even then, we don't have any physical evidence of any of this. None. So why the fuck should we give a flying fuck? This is the fun part of, and you think, oh, this has been fun. This is going to be the real fun part. You know how you're talking about the death of Jesus? Should we just ignore this now?
Okay.
Aren't Christians just too biased about this? Oh, I was wrong. He does capitalize this one and bold it.
Oh
As
boy.
there are not many serious objections to the claim that Jesus' wounds at the cross were fatal.
Fatal.
Yeah, I forgot. I said before he didn't. He did the. I forgot about that one. Let us focus on a more general objection. And by more general, we mean nothing to do with what we're talking about. Since this chapter is the first of those related to the resurrection of Jesus, not about the life and times or anything he said, just the fact he resurrected, because that means you have to believe what I say, because the fact he resurrected means that the people that wrote about me are correct, right? It couldn't be that he was the son of the Jewish God trying to bring the Jews to prominence, right? And that maybe the fact that he was crucified maybe that means that actually God, did forsake the human species, went on to another planet, and that's why, God stopped acting through prophets and stuff. But I know it's all made up, so that's really dumb. But come on. Why is it? I just don't get why we're only supposed to talk about the resurrection of Jesus. Isn't it important about what he said and did? But we're only talking about what proves him. Well, wouldn't what he said and did prove him? No, only his death matters.
Because you can't really bring that to light since Jesus didn't say and did anything according to Jesus.
Hey, since they can't prove that Jesus was born, I don't think they can prove that he was dead. Because to be dead, you need to be alive first.
That's true.
You can't be dead until you're alive. So all those people that haven't been born yet, they're not dead. They don't exist.
So what you're saying is, if Jesus was real and God is real, then Jesus was aborted midlife.
Yeah, well, Cartman's mom could do it, so.
Cartman's mom did that.
Do you not remember from the South Park movie?
I don't.
Is it? No, it's not the South Park movie.
Have I seen
No.
Park
It's the end of it's the very first episode of the It's either the end of the first season or the very first episode of the second season. It's in relation to Cartman trying to find out who his dad is. And then his mum starts sleeping with all these people trying to make well, what about abortion in the 23rd trimester?
23rd trimester.
Yeah. Well, that would have to be 10 years old.
That's not right. Well.
So since they're going to, dance around not having to talk about why the proof of Jesus existing, because, well, if people say he died, then he must die, right?
He must. I like it.
Since this chapter is the first of really to wrestling in Jesus, it is appropriate to consider how the allegation that Christians must have. We must now consider the allegation that Christians have difficulty being objective. I read that very wrong about the resurrective because of personal bias. Okay. The issue is one that the Christian carries so close to his chest that it is reasonable to assume that he could not honestly assess these facts. And here we read the Christian book to hear about how Christians aren't biased.
Let's read it.
I just thought you might want to comment on that at all. That we should read the Christian tell us about Christians aren't biased.
If the Christians, I don't know. Have you been to a church and the thundering away from the pulpit and the going up and feeling that emotional moment when the music's played down low and they keep singing the same chorus over and over again, waiting for everybody to clear out and asking for more to come up, more healing. I'm sure it will be delivered in a very monotone, very basic way.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it was this is the you've sinned in your life. You need to come forward.
Right. And that's why they should not be trusted with bias. Because they're really good at not doing that. And now I can hear all the Christians going, hey, but scientists talk about why they're not unbiased all the time. And it's like, is that so? Because it feels like to me, they actually say, we're really fucking biased. And in fact, all people are biased. So we've created a process to try and take as much bias as out as possible. So it actually doesn't say that at all. But so when they say actually, we try not to be biased, and here's the results that prove that. Here's the thought that we had, here's the experiments we did, and here's the results that we have. I'm afraid that I'm going to take that more seriously than someone that says, well, Christians aren't biased. I thought about it really hard.
I thought about it.
I sat there and just a second, I need to act this out. And I sat there because I'm going to do a Winnie the Pooh. And I sat there and I crossed my arms and I went, think, 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 think. And I became convinced.
That's how you did it, huh?
Hey, if it's good enough for them.
The missus, I told you the missus took off today. I have a little white Eeyore for a dog right now. Yeah. Speaking of Winnie the Pooh. And I fixed her food during one of my last, when you said I was jerking off just off camera or some variation of that. I went and fed her real quick, and she still hasn't eaten yet. She's on a hunger strike because the missus has left. So
every day of the week.
Yeah. So I've got a little, what I refer to when the missus leaves as the little white Eeyore. Oh well. That's how it feels like to be an atheist, I guess. I guess I'm gonna read Braxton's book today.
Oh
well.
Do you know Eeyore made me not like Winnie the Pooh when I was a kid? Because I hated the way that everybody in that story treated Eeyore.
Oh.
Because I'm like, you all say he's your friend. And then all you do is hammer a nail in his ass. And then when his house blows down, you don't even invite him inside. You just say, we'll build the same shitty sticks again. You stay out there, you stupid fuck. Other people have problems. They invite him in. They give him carrots. They give him honey. They talk to him. They talk through their emotional troubles. Eeyore, they just go away.
That's true. They do that, don't they?
Do you like the fan theory about Winnie the Pooh?
What is it?
I mean, it's based in less fan theory logic than other ones. That actually Winnie the Pooh is about childhood mental illness. And that all of the different characters, aside from Christopher Robin, are different mental troubles. Winnie the Pooh's gluttony, Piglet's anxiety, Rabbit is paranoia, Eeyore's depression, Tigger's ADHD.
Interesting. Wow, that kind of makes sense now that you mention it. Wow. Tigger's what now again?
ADHD.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you that again in about another 20 seconds, okay?
I'll remember it. I remember this time.
Okay. No wonder I have a kinship with our Tigger friend there. That's funny.
I just wanted to bounce around on things.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed playing Lava Floor when I was a kid.
Yeah. I just wanted to bounce around. I didn't know I was looking forward to bouncing around on my boy's dick.
Sit on my face and tell me that you love me.
Right, where was I? The issue is yes, that is in fact what she said. Or commenting it. Oh, that reminds me of a TV show. Do you ever watch Rules of Engagement?
Rules Rules of engagement.
Came out in the mid 2000s. That had Patrick Warburton and David Spade in it. It was about three couples, and there was like a newly married couple, there was a long married couple, and a single guy. But there was just one bit of it where David Spade starts like dating this girl, and just everything she says is an innuendo. Just everything. And this guy comes up to her and he goes, I think I figured out your girlfriend. And David Spade goes like, what are you on about? And he goes, so you know when they go, oh, that's what she said. Yeah, and he goes, but that's your girlfriend because that's what she said.
That's funny. I don't think I ever watched this show.
I really liked it. I got disappointed when I found out recently that apparently Patrick Warburton was MAGA. I'm like, oh, really? I like Patrick Warburton.
It happens.
I suppose he's a rich fuck. Of course he's going to be.
Is he the guy that played the Tick?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in the first live action.
Yeah.
In the second one, it was Peter Seranovitz.
I don't know who that is. At least not by name.
He was in John Wick.
Oh.
You know the second John Wick when he goes to Italy and he goes to the Continental in Italy and there's like a tall British guy that gives him all of his weapons and suit. That's Peter Seranovitz. He's like a British actor. He was in Shaun of the Dead. He was in Black Books.
I did not watch the Rules of Engagement. I did not. Looks funny though.
Yeah, I liked it. We must consider our own motives. Are we merely captives to our own biases? I mean, yes. And whilst he's asking this question, I'm going to play a very relevant clip.
Ooh.
Well, we've seen this many times before.
Do it again.
Yeah. Well.
When will I walk away? For me, when I'm so diseased or my brain so deteriorated that I'm no longer myself in my rational mind. Listen to me. We're not going anywhere.
It never gets old, BS.
And if you came to Christ partly because God used Trinity Radio or my ministry apart from Trinity Radio, hear me loud and clear. I've said plenty about the ways in which I'm open and my views are falsifiable. But I want everyone who calls himself or herself a committed Christian to consider this deeply. I'm not ashamed to tell you that I will always be a Christian. What meaning does it have to say I have bent the knee to the king if I may go AWOL in the midst of the chaos? I have bent the knee, and I will not defect. In our tribe at Trinity, loyalty means quite a bit. And we aren't just loyal to each other. We're loyal to each other because we found a reliable master. We're in the kingdom, and we're proud citizens of it. I belong to Jesus Christ. He is my Lord, and I will never surrender.
Never. I will never surrender. Never. So, Mr. We try to get away from our biases because that's what he's going to say. You don't try and get away from your biases just because you say stupid bullshit like, I could admit that my facts are falsifiable, but also they're totally not falsifiable and everything I say is true because I've bent the knee to the king. And I can't bend the knee to the king if it's fake because he's true. He's the most true. And we found him and he's the most trustworthy. Shut your fucking face, you grifter cunt. Like, he complained, we didn't watch enough of his shit and read enough of his shit to get his points. Well, I've watched enough of your shit to get the points that you don't like. And you don't do enough to fucking say that you're not that. So the fact is everything that you fucking do shows how much of a grifter you are. And the fact that I'm supposed to give a shit about, like, you not, like, me say, like, so what was the thing he kicked off about? You know, I said, you only say this shit in front of people that are only reading your book, right? And then he provided a bunch of examples where he didn't actually say that.
The second core moment?
No, this is like near the start of the book.
The start of the book, got it.
You know, at the start of the book, when I was like, in his prologue, he's like, you know, the core arguments do not go for our God. And I'm like, this is amazing that he would say this because they always act like it. And he's like, well, I've said this before. And then provided a bunch of things where he actually didn't say that and said exactly what I say he says. But it's not bias, right? It's just us. It's us with our biases and he's ignoring and he doesn't have his. You know what I mean? It's ludicrous.
when we have the biases as atheists, we don't have the same biases though. Like clearly, if you sit me in a room with Forrest, what's his name? Valakai. Thank you. Clearly, he's an atheist because of some evidences that I just don't plain have. I don't have that knowledge. There's, thousands of different reasons to be an atheist. There's a dozen or so that I can see different reasons to be a Christian. And we're arguing about, I don't know, whether or not Jesus actually died. It seems like, who cares? Jesus died. Was he a god or wasn't he? That's all the evidence we're asking for. Was he resurrected because he was a god? End of list. Focus on that.
Well, that's why, but he can't because he doesn't have any of that proof.
Doesn't have any of that.
We best beat around the bushes and make it look like that's what we're approaching. And plus, if he approaches the idea of not having a bias, that means that he doesn't have a bias because he's approaching it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, are we merely captive of our biases? Is it possible that we are driven by our own dreams of an afterlife just so that we can have some sense of peace during this one? Reasonable thinkers, there's that thing, reasonable thinkers again. How are we not supposed to look at a term like reasonable thinker and go, you don't agree with me, you're not reasonable? It's dumb. People can be reasonable and not agree with you. Reasonable thinkers must admit that bias is a live factor. Michael O'Connor, in discussing the Christian conclusion he drew from his research, admitted, I have experienced a return to my default position of belief. Still, although I am aware that I cannot overcome my personal biases, I maintain that I can be adequately objective, that my present research is to the best of my knowledge an honest investigation of the data. Well, good for him. Good for him. At least he can go, well, I think I've done it, so we should all admit it. Do you know what? I've just remembered something. We was arguing about Tacitus. Do you know what I forgot? And it's not continuing that argument. You know when I said before that he can't do his book properly? This is the bit I'm on about. So he says here, oh no, it's not. Never mind. Wrong quote. We'll get into it. Carry on. Yeah. As Lacona explains, no scholar can completely eradicate his biases when considering any serious subject, but he can work to limit them. So let's now consider Christian bias.
The
Freudian idea that beliefs are a product of wish fulfillment is a charge that may stick to some faiths, but it will not with Christianity. I mean, we have 4 gospels that don't agree with each other, so that's not wishful thinking. We all think that we're going to heaven as part of a religion that said there was a heaven compared to the other religions at the time that didn't. That's not wishful thinking. You know what I mean? This motherfucker in the fucking stream where he wanted to try and have a go at us, right? And I asked him what's the first bit of Genesis that you take fucking seriously? And he said that he doesn't take Genesis seriously or literally. So, motherfucker, is it that the scientific evidence precludes Genesis from being true? So we have to use our Christian bias to say this is the time when we can do away with religious texts, right?
But if Genesis isn't true, then there's no God, and therefore no Son of God.
Right, and so, wishful thinking gets you there. Especially those Christians that say, you know how it says that God is there in the Garden of Eden? That's Jesus. I know it says God, but God means Jesus, right?
It does.
And it's not wishful thinking. It's not aggrandizing your belief above others and how you must be correct and putting out information that disregards what you say. Nah. The idea is that we're not suffer through this life without some hope that there is no more to come. Indeed, this would be horrible. Not wish fulfillment at all. We cannot suffer through this life without the hope that there's more to come. How the fuck isn't that wish fulfillment, you dumb prick? oh, we don't like the look at life and the look of the world. It would all be pointless and horrible without God, so he must be true. You wish-fulfilling prick. Like, I just...
You're where you at here?
I'm at the green.
You're on the green.
Oh, no, I'm at the end of the green.
You're at the end of the green.
I want to be in the green, Lord.
It would lead to nihilism that we find in the writings of Nietzsche. He is often credited with the gallantly claiming a victory for existential atheism, but this is a misconception. Nietzsche, upon arriving at atheism, was horrified by the way it rendered life meaningless. Regarding the passage wherein the claim of God's death is made, one author points out.
He doesn't name the author, does he? Does he name He doesn't name the author. It's just one author. All these other ones is, William Lane Craig has said this, and this has said this, and this has said this. And he also doesn't name the fucking Nietzsche quote. Oh, you should just know it, right? So this is the bit where he can't do his book, right? So at the end of the quote, I'm just going to point it out. The pointless thing. He's got, it's the number 42, right? This is the thing, for the annotation, right? So annotations go at the bottom of the page, don't they? We would see here, under the same heading, and the same topic, right? He's talking about Lacona here, 41, 40, you know what I mean, right? It's at the bottom of the page. This one, though, 42, it's not at the bottom of that page at all, is it? That's funny.
It's not.
It's at the bottom of the next page, because this fucking idiot can't format his own book. And also can't fucking hire with the money that he gets from his own grifter university that he runs, not out of his own merit, because his dead father gave it to him. Can't use his own money to fucking, get someone to edit his fucking book correctly, you cheap piece of shit? Really? This screams of, self-published bullshit.
Yeah. That is interesting. That is an interesting fact that he didn't want to put Nietzsche's,
But even this bit here, where it's from Dinesh D'Souza, it's at the bottom of the next page. Weird.
That is weird.
Either you're incompetent, you don't want to spend the money on people being competent, or you really don't like Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah. Interesting.
The first thing to notice about this passage is not that it's directed at religious believers, but at atheists. It is the atheists who mock God who isn't there. And it is the atheists that Nietzsche's prophet considers to be the real fools. They are the fools because they have not come to terms with the meaning of death, with the death of God. They think they can get rid of God and immortality, but hold on to the Christian values of Christian morality. Okay. So when we look at, I don't know, Christians who use, I can't remember, right off the top of my head, I can't remember if it was Blaise Pascal or if it was C.S. Lewis that said, there's enough, they say, there's enough dark for those that wish to hide from the light or whatever, right? When that's not what the quote is. The full quote is along the lines of, there is enough light for those that wish to see, and there is enough darkness for those that wish not to. Pointing out that the time in which the quote was said, that both scientific and historical evidence was had too much ambiguity about it to say that either was true, and that, it was Pascal, because it's also part of Pascal's wager, right? And that's why you should do Pascal's wager, because of there not being enough evidence on both sides. Do you mean like that? That, if we're going to play that people aren't, looking at the quotes properly, we'll win. And that doesn't have anything to do with Christian bias, right? Because,
I just did some research for my next video. I was fact-checking something, and I was going to use what I thought was an Einstein quote, but it turns out it's attributed to him, but there's no
Spinoza.
Fact that he may have, and it was a wise person, or what was it? I can't remember. A smart person avoids a problem. Or, I'm sorry, a smart person gets out of a problem, a wise person avoids it.
Yeah.
which is potentially something that Einstein said, but is not documented.
Yeah. That's the fun of quotes, you know what I mean?
It's fun of
Especially when
quotes.
they're part of philosophical books that people don't really give a flying fuck about. Like, unless you care about philosophy.
It's isn't philosophy a line on a cereal box? Religion?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not afraid of too many things. I know what I know, and I know what I mean. Do.
Sorry, go on.
I was just singing. Maybe not even very well. You've got a lot of notes coming up here.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say, you know what they say, there's known knowns, and there's known unknowns, and there's known unknowns, and unknown unknowns.
That reminds me of Mrs. Tux tells a story that her dad used to wear a hat that her mom hated that hat. And the hat said, I married a nun. None in the morning, noon, or night.
Carry on reading.
All right. I don't remember exactly where we are, but I think we finished the quote. For Nietzsche, this meant that there was no hope for overcoming the reality and imminence of the grave. Clearly, it would be horrible to live in a world, Nietzsche's world, without the possibility of everlasting life. But the fact that everlasting life is a wonderful idea does not mean it is not also a fact of reality. So I'm confused on this sentence structure. It's almost like he's trying to invert what he's saying. But the fact that everlasting life is a wonderful idea does not mean it is not also a fact of reality. So he's trying to say this from the Christian perspective or Nietzsche's perspective?
No, from his. So he's trying to say that it'd be horrible to live in Nietzsche's world because life without God is pointless, right?
Yeah.
So, because the fact of an everlasting life is wonderful does not mean for it to be a fact of reality. Means that, like, he's trying to say that because he thinks that heaven is wonderful and life is horrible, it doesn't mean that he's wishful thinking.
Okay. Aha.
Because, like, well, life is horrible and heaven is good, so it's not wishful, it's true. Even forgetting the fact that thinking that heaven is real is wishful thinking.
The thing is, he's got a comma there, and he has a but, and the way he uses the is, and then it is not, is very confusing to me. It's like he's gone one direction, he changed the direction, and then immediately changed the direction by using not.
He didn't, though. That's not what's going on there. It's going back to when he's saying at the start of the page, when he's saying, this would be a horrible world to live in. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So he's saying, clearly, because Nietzsche says, a life without God or whatever, he's God, is pointless or whatever the quote is. I can't remember off specific. So he's saying that Nietzsche's saying that the whole thing's pointless, right? And because of that inherent pointless makes life bad, right? So he's saying that so Nietzsche's world is a world without everlasting life, right? So because that's bad and heaven is good, doesn't mean that he's a wishful thinker.
Dream on. Dream on. Dream until the dream comes true.
Because he shores it up after this. He says the first major problem with the charge that Christianity is simply wish fulfillment is full stop. It assumes that just because we would like to see it be, it must be so. Do you know what I mean?
I think so.
But that's the thing. He's not approaching it properly because he is living with bias and he is living with with wishful thinking, so he has to phrase it badly, because to talk about it, you have to phrase it badly for it to even make sense in your own mind. A sentence like that isn't trying to convince us; it's trying to convince himself.
Yeah. I'm still confused about that sentence structure. Like when you put a comma and then you use the word but, and then you use the word is, and then you use the word does,
But he doesn't
and
say
dot,
okay.
and then it uses is, it is not in the same in between the comma and the period. It changes directions too many times for my brain to comprehend what he's actually talking about.
It's not written well, but yeah. What are you saying?
Second time I'm reading through it and I still don't get it. It was dictated to me, the first time.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah. But that's the thing. My point at the side is like, would it though? Because we've been fucking doing this for 1,000,000 years before God was ever mentioned to anyone in this way. So like, why the fuck does he have to wait fucking 1,000,000 years for the Homo species to like start to have some semblance of civilization greater than, well, we're doing some hunting gathering, before it even starts to turn the fuck up? It's ridiculous.
One day, though, we'll stand before God. It says so in this book.
Yeah, but we're supposed to like look at that single thought and not see any of this as wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want about? Of course it's wishful thinking. You're saying that God ignored humanity for over 1,000,000 years and had millions of other years, like, because fucking Braxton says he believes in evolution, right? So then there's billions of years of Earth of evolution before God gives a flying fuck, and it's not wishful thinking and Christian bias that you're suddenly special and God suddenly gives a flying fuck?
No. Don't do it.
There are many things throughout our lives that we hope will happen that actually do happen. Girls' dreams of the wonder of their wedding day, and the day and the day comes. Sorry, and men dream of becoming wealthy, and they become wealthy. It makes no sense to say that Christianity is false and there is no afterlife simply because we would like it to be the truth. Problems persist, however, for the wishful fulfillment against Christianity. One, yeah, women only dream about that sort of thing and men only dream about power, you sexist prick. But two, like, fuck off. Just because people dream of things and then they happen doesn't mean it isn't wish fulfillment, right? Because the idea that a girl can get married, a man can become powerful, isn't, like, in the realm of fucking, like, just absurdity, because we're not talking about things that happen in a different realm, in a different fucking, dimension outside of what we live in. Like, the idea that these people keep on fucking comparing things to happen in the world to a God that's outside of it is fucking silly. And going, do the same thing. And it's like, it's fucking not. People didn't dream of heaven until Christianity made it up.
Yeah, there was
around. So it's wish fulfillment. Fuck off.
When you're tricked by a Nigerian prince, it's because you believe you're going to be rewarded for the good thing that you did now. And Christianity has that same implement.
Yeah.
Love me, I'll love you, and in exchange, I'm going to reward you someday.
And there's another difference here, actually, that I didn't see before. When he's saying a girl dreams of the wedding day and, the guys dream of power, well, that's a person dreaming of a thing that they are creating themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas these people, like, well, these people made up a thing a couple thousand years ago, and I'm really hoping that's true.
Yeah. I hope.
Like, yes, weddings aren't new, but the idea of weddings is the way we have them definitely is. Wedding days are now about love, and they used to be about you had a kid. And then before that, they were about property and success.
That's true. I concur. Property. I saw the I saw the fiddler on the roof. If I were a rich man.
Man, you can't say anything about that. It's you singing about that. People get angry.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you wanna continue on?
Where are we at?
Right at the end of the green quote.
The green there. If our faith merely developed out of a desire to have our wishes fulfilled, then heaven makes perfect sense. One would expect a fabricated afterlife to be rather heavenly. On the other hand, the wish fulfillment hypothesis makes no sense of the Christian teaching regarding the reality of hell. How would we be comforted by the possibility that one day we would pass through a doorway into a world of suffering that was everlasting?
Because
you've got so many highlights there.
Yeah, so like, I don't know, it's almost like maybe wish fulfillment is seeing your enemies burn forever in hell. Because you don't think you go into hell, you fucking moron. You think that you tell God that I'm sorry so you don't have to worry about it, right? So, this fuck thinks that he's, nice and on fucking, in the good graces of God because he's a believer. So he gets to go to heaven, wish fulfillment. He gets to be surrounded by people that are other like-minded people like him, wish fulfillment. And then all the people that disagree with him, well, they go to hell and they burn forever, wish fulfillment. Now, say if one of those people tends to be a family member, well, then, it's really sad that a family member has to burn in hell forever, but you told them they should believe in God. They had their fucking chance, right? So when you're in heaven for 20 vintillion years, it's not that big of a deal, is it? So it's all fucking wish fulfillment. Like, fuck off. Just because, if we don't believe and we do the things, because God only really says the only thing you're going to go to hell for is, saying God isn't real. So doing all the other things you only have to apologize for, so you don't think that you're going to hell. And that's also why these fucks don't think hell is that bad of a thing, because they don't think it's a thing they could realistically go to. So it's not a trouble that they have in their head. They just go, nah, whatever, it's just for the bad people, and I'm not a bad people.
This is for my people. For this reason, our desires cannot be credited with the creation of the afterlife. Moreover, it would...
I mean, for that to happen, he would have to prove that the idea of the afterlife was around before we created it. And that it wasn't created by people. Because it certainly isn't in the Old Testament.
Nope. It's not.
It's almost like Sheol is. And that's the afterlife for everyone. And Sheol isn't heaven.
Yeah.
Hades.
Sheol isn't really hell. It's just kind of I don't know. It kind of describes it more like a 10-month.
No. It's Hades.
It's Hades.
No, I mean literally. It's described as Hades. You have an incorporeal body. You can affect things, and it's all darkness.
We all gonna die. Moreover, it would be a fail to explain the moral guidelines that we are meant to live by as Christians in this world. Look at all that highlighting.
Oh, this is all one thing.
If I'm running on a wish fulfillment, why would I not create a faith that would that allowed me to indulge in every pleasure of present earthly existence, and then have the promise of heaven on top of that? Wish fulfillment simply does not explain the Christian teachings on hell and obedience.
It's almost like all the Christian teachings were made before we had modern conveniences and modern abilities to do things. So in fact, anything they talk about that would even be slightly considered in a modern sense is totally not what it's talking about. So any of those things are completely put on by ourselves because we wish to persecute others. That's why we choose which bits of the Bible to follow and which bits we don't. That's why a fuck like this will wear mixed fabrics and not give a flying fuck, because they're picking and choosing which bits of the Bible to believe and which bits not to listen to. So if you're going to pick and choose which rules to pay attention to, how is that not wish fulfillment? Because you're still going to heaven in the end, right? So you got to decide, I'm not going to pay attention to this one, and I'm going to pay attention to this, and I'm not going to pay attention to the other one. Because you didn't want to. So you are wishing to fulfill your ideas of what you think the Lord's rule is on earth, because it is your wish, because you do not wish it to be otherwise, because to be otherwise would be horrible, so you lived like it isn't. It's weird. It's almost like when we put Christian arguments against the way he said that it totally isn't, and you do it the opposite way round. It's almost like you can totally prove a lot of things. Weird that, isn't it?
That's weird. Oh my god, that's like weird.
It's all right. We're nearly done.
Oh, are we already?
Yes. This is the last bit.
This is the last bit. Core moment.
You gotta strengthen that call.
If Christians just made up their religion, then why did they include the possibility of hell and all the talk of obedience? If early Christians just made it up, it would seem that they would have made all things permissible. Yeah, I don't really understand this point. To go back to my Nigerian prince example, the moment you start questioning when your money is going to come, the person on the other end of the communication usually starts getting furious with you. It sounds like a simple, you're not going to get my love anymore, or you're not going to get my reward if you keep questioning. Yeah. And that's what hell sounds like to me in the Nigerian prince scenario. Is you started questioning whether this is legitimate, and they just kind of resorted to respect my authority. You'll be punished unless you respect my authority.
Respect my authority. Do you know what? Actually, it's a good question, right? If the Christians just made up the religion, then why did they include the possibility of head and talk of obedience? I think I'm going to turn to George Carlin.
Oh.
They're always talking about what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? They don't want to know so they can do it. They just want to know so they can tell other people to do it.
Maybe it's because of that. Maybe part of the wish fulfillment is that you have some idea that you're in control of this life, and you can tell how other people that you've never met and will never meet, how they should act and react because of your religious experiences. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why they give it. Maybe that's why, it's wish fulfillment when you're talking about hell and obedience, because you don't give a shit if you're obedient. You don't give a shit about hell, because a lack of obedience in hell is what other people have to deal with, right, Braxton? Because you run your father's university that he founded, that he gave you through no merit of your own, that still can't get accredited, because, yeah. Like, come on.
Like, come on, man.
Brain's dying.
Hey, Sean. Jesus, man.
Hey, Scotty. Jesus, man.
Roll credits.
How to share your faith effectively and biblically, to be able to reason with people. Learn to circumnavigate or go around the person's intellect.
Go around their intellect.
Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to come into contact with things they know.
It's still real to me, damn it!
It's still. That's brilliant. Commandeer your senses, folks. We're almost done. This is already enough reason to doubt the claim that Christians just dreamed it all up. But there is one more issue to consider.
Sorry, I know I keep on interrupting when I'm like, I'm not going to. But I keep on noticing the things I didn't know. This is already enough reason to doubt the claim. Not to prove it, just to doubt it. Interesting choice of words. Very interesting choice of words. Considering he's supposed to be the head of a university and he really cares about philosophy, that really puts a lot of score into using very specific words and definitions. Just an interesting point, I thought, to clear up.
That's interesting.
Doubt, not prove. Cool.
Such an idea ignores the evidence we are offering for truth claims that we make. We are not saying that Christianity is true because we hope that it is. We're saying that it is good reason to believe that what Jesus taught is factual.
We won't approach it in this book, but you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think the atheist point of view is reasonable, that Paul is setting up a Nigerian prince scam, or somebody who convinced Paul that it was true is setting up a Nigerian prince scam. Because clearly, if you start questioning this once upon a time, they will come at you. Say, well, you can't, you know, anytime I make a critique on a a Braxton video, the first question that they asked didn't have anything to do with my comment. Yeah, it's factual that there is deception in your holy book. There doesn't need to be. God doesn't need to put deception in there. Not once. But you want to talk about my morality so that I can be disqualified from judging whether or not it's good or not. Deception is in your book. And a lack of that deception shouldn't be, a lack of that deception is allowed to be in there because that means it's good.
Yeah, well, they care more about appearing to be correct than actually being correct. And they care more about giving you no way to appear to be correct than actually being correct. That's why all these arguments and all these points, it's all about not actually proving anything. It's just about putting doubt into your situation.
Yeah, my doubt.
Yeah, my doubt got me to be an atheist. And my doubt ain't going to bring me back into being a Christian. That's silly.
Yeah, that is kind of silly.
But if you're trying to seed doubt into people that haven't fallen out of the faith, and you're trying to seed doubt into things that are against your faith, well then yeah, it seems like a very reasonable thing to do when you're being a disingenuous fuck, and you don't give a shit about being correct, and you only care about the appearance of being correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll boil it down to the ultimate conclusion here. Jesus died, great. Jesus needs to be a God for me to worship Jesus. You need to connect those dots right there. The moment from Jesus is a human who is a God, and provide that evidence. Otherwise, it looks like somebody who has a Christian scheme to get people to be under their control for whatever reason. You know, it could be the power struggle, the control of the masses, a welfare system, the donations, the money, the Jerusalem donation. Those things need to have the dots connected to be a God, because humans are fully capable of doing them all by themselves. It happens all the time. That's all I need. Just a little old me.
See, but I find it that Braxton said at the start of all this book that, you know, hey, the first 4 arguments are going to prove the existence of God, right? And these arguments are going to prove Jesus. And it's like, you're not even proving Jesus. You're proving the idea against Muslims that he died. And like later on he's going to go, oh, he appeared to other people, forgetting the fact that actually most of the they're not even canonical, most of the references to people that knew him dying come from non-canonical texts that are Gnostic. These people don't give a shit about being correct. These people don't give a shit about eschewing biases. These people care about looking to eschew biases and in fact reinforcing them, because the whole religious proposition is about enforcing biases. You were informed of this when you were a kid. How dare you still not have these biases now? Yeah,
that's a good point. That sums it up. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good comment, Zach. I like it. And remember, I'm going to play a video at the end of this, so
yeah,
I'm gonna say something similar to that as well. Let's see. Where did I leave off? I would not want to be in the same boat as Nietzsche. But if he was right and atheism was true, what are your thoughts? Every time I hear atheism is true, proven true. I don't really understand that concept.
Why?
Because it's the opposite. Atheism doesn't need to be true at any point. You just need to provide the evidence that God and Jesus is a God and the Spirit is a God, etc., etc.
Right,
To me,
but like the point, yeah, but I don't see why we shouldn't have to. I don't see why we shouldn't have to prove atheism is true.
Correct. That's my point as well. I don't understand why the insinuation atheism was true.
Because
Atheism doesn't need to be true.
Because he's talking about
God needs to be a true for Christianity to be true. Otherwise, it's just one big human-made scam.
Yeah. I mean, he's only using was because he's talking about Nietzsche in the past.
Yeah. Nietzsche in the past. But it's the second time I think he said some variation of performing a insinuation that atheism needs to be true or something.
I don't think he's saying that atheism needs to be true. I don't think that's what he's saying at all. Because he's providing a hypothetical.
Okay.
That's what was it? I would not want to be in the same boat with Nietzsche. If he was right and atheism was true, I would be forced to join him in God's funeral dirge.
Ooh.
He's just said, like, you
God,
know,
just
he was
funeral dirge. You know what? My dictation did not put the emphasis on that.
I mean, you didn't say that last bit of the sentence. That's why. You stopped at atheism is true.
Yeah. I mean, the dictation when I read it, I had it read to me the first time.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it just sounds like a funeral dirge. Wow. Wow, that lands with a thud right there. Thankfully, he was wrong. I believe in Christian theism, not because I would like it to be true. There are things as a human I wish were different, but I believe because they are true.
And he has provided no evidence of this whatsoever.
Yeah, but
this
Jesus
entire
died.
chapter is about the factual evidence of Jesus' death, and he has provided none of it. He's just gone, well, Jesus was alive, right? Presupposing the fact that Jesus was alive and not trying to approach any of the any evidence at all, because there isn't any, that he actually fucking lived.
Jesus.
So he has to cling on to, well, Jesus died, right? People said he died, so that matters. Because all I need to talk about is the resurrection.
Are you wearing anything revealing for your revealing?
Revealing for real? But yeah, that's the rest of it. The rest of it is just going to be transitioning for the layman. And the conclusion is
F stands for fatal.
Over again for the third time.
Yeah. Wow. He does go into 1 Corinthians 15. Come on, baby.
Does he?
Nah, not really. He doesn't go into it. He just references it.
Yeah.
So I want to play a video for you. This is something I edited together using Alexander Scorby and the King James Bible. And it is the 4 gospel accounts. And I want you to ask me to stop the video anytime you have a reference of somebody who shared their experience with Braxton.
Oh, yeah.
Chapter 16, Chapter 28, Chapter 24, Chapter 20. Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and Salome, Joanna and other women that were with them bought sweet spices. There was a great earthquake.
Anybody so far?
I mean, technically all of them.
All of them? Yeah, technically.
It's somebody else relaying information to him, so all of them.
The angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. And they said among themselves, who shall roll us away the stone?
What's that?
Is this from the Mormon video of Jesus?
No, this is just King James read by Alexander Scorby.
Oh, right. because he totally sounds like the guy who did all the, you know, like the 70s. I can't remember if it was the 60s or 70s. Fucking like, you know, Jesus videos about fucking like they were cartoons and they were like stuff like that. He sounds exactly like them.
Yeah, I've made fun of those. Like anytime somebody says the devil does this and the devil does that, I love pulling up that old Mormon video about how the devils and demons are all kind of associated and who's going to get rewarded, and that
Joseph Smith said, but it's the same voice. It's so good, and he's got he's got like really terrible animation. I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sorry, go on.
The door of the sepulchre. And when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away. And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead. And behold, he goeth before you into Galilee. Entering into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side. 2 men stood by them in shining garments. And as they were afraid and bowed down their faces to the earth, But go your way, tell his disciples and Peter that he goeth before you into Galilee. There his disciples that he is risen from the dead. And behold, he goeth before you into Galilee. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee, saying, The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men, and be crucified. Then she runneth and cometh to Simon Peter, and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved. And they went out quickly, and fled. He goeth before you into Galilee. There shall ye see him. Lo, I have told you. And they departed quickly from the sepulchre with fear and great joy, and did run to bring his disciples word. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, All hail. And they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. Neither said they anything to any man, for they were afraid. And the third day rise again. And they remembered his words, and returned from the sepulchre, and told all these things unto the 11, and to all the rest. It was Mary Magdalene, and Joanna, and Mary the mother of James, and other women that were with them, which told these things unto the apostles. And their words seemed to them as idle tales, and they believed them not. Then arose Peter, and ran unto the sepulchre. Peter therefore went forth, and that other disciple, and came to the sepulchre. So they ran both together. And the other disciple did outrun Peter, and came first to the sepulchre. And he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen clothes lying. Yet when he beheld the linen clothes laid by themselves, and departed, wondering in himself at that which was come to pass, saw the linen clothes lying, yet went he not in. Then cometh Simon Peter following him, and went into the sepulchre, and seeth the linen clothes lie, and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen clothes, but wrapped together in a place by itself. Then went in also that other disciple, which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. Now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene. Mary stood without at the sepulchre weeping. And as she wept, she stooped down and looked into the sepulchre, and seeth 2 angels in white, sitting, the one at the head, and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. Said, she turned herself back, and saw Jesus standing, and knew not that it was Jesus. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus saith unto her, Mary. She turned herself, and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Jesus saith unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren, and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene came and...
So any of those actually tell us our story, especially Jesus?
No.
No. No. Doesn't seem that any of them actually told us our story. Paul's the only one who tells us our story. And he kind of equals his vision story to 500, quote unquote, that we don't have any of the claims from.
We don't. Yeah, but that's next chapter.
That's next chapter. Super.
Next
Can't
chapter
wait.
is all the witnesses.
Yeah. Yeah, all the witnesses. Can I get a witness?
We can get many. Shame none of them actually fit the actual witness description.
Oh, it's so I just hit cancel, and it still wants me to share my screen. I tried stopping my screen. That's weird.
Oh, aye.
EV Mux is jammed.
Yeah, shit.
Jam. Here comes the jam. All right.
That's the end of that chapter.
And there's the end of that chapter.
That's what they say in The Simpsons. So it's been fun.
Yeah.
So, have you we're just going to discuss bottom of the barrel next week.
We are.
You up for doing that instead of this next week?
The bottom of the barrel, yeah. Let's do that next week instead of this.
So on Monday he'll be on, and we're going to look at.
Oh, wait a minute! It's on Monday.
Yes.
I'll be working on Monday.
All right, it's on Tuesday then, and I'll do a normal stream on Monday.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
I suppose I can finish that video I didn't finish last night.
Oh boy. So
if you find any pseudoscience memes or religious memes you want to make fun of, send them my way.
All right.
That includes the viewers.
Send them your way.
And then we can make fun of them.
Do it. Are we allowed to send you whole videos of B.S. Lewis?
I mean, you can, but it won't end up on that.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I need memes. I need memes.
Memes it is. All right. I'll look through my collection of potentially saved or linked or something like that.
I have a bunch, and I just keep on spotting them. That Twitter turned into a cesspool, and then it just became full of all the worst shit. And I'm like, this is a treasure trove, and everybody looks at memes and thinks they're correct, so we can probably make fun of them.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah, I used to love some of those memes. I used to save them in tabs. I always thought about doing something like that.
Yeah.
With them.
That's good shit. Right,
it's good sheet, man. All right, I'm gonna go check on the doggy.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
I'll see all of you. There's no video tomorrow because it's the off week. So I'll see everybody on Monday, and if I don't see you beforehand, I'll see you then.
Bowtie bless.
And as it always is said before the end of things.
Thank you, fuck you, bye, boom.